about Sonoma and the City Council to order. I would like Council Barnett Smith to lead us for Pledge of Allegiance to start our meeting.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all. Thank you so much. I would like Ms. Barr for us in the local, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett.
Here.
Councilmember Felder.
Present.
Councilmember Lowe.
Here.
Councilmember Agrimonti.
Here.
Mayor Dean.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. According to City Council's special meeting, the January 6th, we have accepted resolution to open our City Council meeting and City Commissioner meetings all virtually. We will continue to this practice until further notice based on governor's order and our county public health officer's order. We still can participate with the meeting. First of all, we can go to our Zoom webinar, which is highlighted for each our agenda. If you don't have computer or smartphone, also you can call in. The number is 669-900-9128. You can dial *9. That means you raise your hand. You can get a chance to speak. So that is our meeting's protocol. Right now, I would like to ask, do we have any changes for our today's agenda?
I think I want to pull something on the consent agenda.
Not yet. Yeah, we're gonna go to, okay. Also, all right, no any changes for the agenda. I need a motion to approve our today's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sorry about that. Vice Mayor Barnett.
Aye.
Councilmember Felder.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe.
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Next one, I would like to report. Today, our council member, we have the closed session in the meeting, starting from the 5 o'clock to starting from the 4 o'clock afternoon and to 5:15. We continue our scheduled city managers review the process. This is one of the 3 meetings. We will report it to the public once we get further information. Agenda number 1, comments from the public. Right now, I would like to open to the public. Any items not appearing on this agenda, it's your time, it's your turn. Please keep your comments in 3 minutes or less. Thank you.
We have Patricia Cullinan up first, Mr.
Patricia, that is your turn.
Thank you, council members. I really appreciate this opportunity. I want to address a request for official recognition by the city for the Historical Society to be designated the official historian and archives of the city of Sonoma. The proposal for this official recognition of the ongoing roles a society is uniquely able to provide for the city and have been performing for many years. The process for this position was begun about 3 years ago. The Historical Society is unique. There are other organizations that use history in Sonoma, but the Sonoma Valley Historical Society has been the stewards of Sonoma history since 1937. We maintain an archive open to the public with paid staff. Pre-COVID years, we had approximately 6,000 visitors per year to the museum, and questions about the Sonoma history were directly asked to us through our Facebook page and numerous other social media, and of course, through the internet. The Historical Society maintains archives that include many of the early city documents, early petitions, deeds, and city records from pre-1900 and to the present. Those are appropriately housed for preservation in perpetuity at the Marcy House and at the Depot Park Museum. We also house records from city organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce and the Women's Club. Previous city historian George McHale used the Historical Society as a resource during his tenure as city historian and wholeheartedly supports this request, as does the board of the Sonoma Valley Historical Society unanimously support this. I'd like to tell you that we are contacted through social media, Facebook, our website, Depot Park Museums, about Sonoma history by writers of articles with worldwide circulation, local businesses that want to promote their business by associating their current businesses with the businesses of the past, people making movies about Sonoma or researching aspects of our community for movies. We provide information and photos to local newspapers. We are helping the city with information about local historic resources. Our Facebook page consistently has over 2,000 views of on our weekly posts. We are important to the city. Examples, pardon me?
That's 3 minutes.
3 minutes. So I hope that you will consider our appeal to be the official historian and archives of the city of Sonoma through resolution identifying our role. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cullinan.
Give it just a few more minutes or a few
All
seconds.
right, yeah, we can wait.
I don't see anyone else raising their hand for general public comment at this time, Mayor. Just wait a few more seconds.
Thank you.
Doesn't appear so.
All right. All right, public comments is always keep going on. You can send an email on the city council. Email address is publiccomment@sonomacity.org. You can upload your comments or just simply send an email, either way. Also, you can call the city hall, and out of the business hour, you just leave the message. Our staff will process your message and send your comments to our council and to our staff. Thank you. Agenda number 2, meeting dedications.
Not ready.
Council member Agrimonti will say the next time, right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We are expecting, yeah. All right. Agenda number 3, presentation. Today, we don't have any item for the presentation. Agenda number 4, consent in the calendar. All these consent in the calendar listed here are considered to be routine and will be it upon that by a single motion. So now, right now, it's the time for our council member or the public to want to pull out any item for further discussion for our action, please.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull 4.2.
All right,
Thank you.
good. Total, we have the 3 items right now. We pull out in the 4.2. All right. If anybody can put it in a motion, we can approve 4.1 and 4.3, please.
Need to do public
Oh, we need
comment.
to go to the public, yes. Now, right now, we open to the public. See if you have any suggestions. You want to pull out any item for further discussion. If not, I want to bring back to the council for the motion.
I move approval of items 4.1 and 4.3.
Great. Who is the second?
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett,
Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Agenda number 4.2.
Right.
Adopt resolution approving a 13,000 contribution to Food for All to continue its stay-home box program, which provides the food and essential items to households who have tested positive for COVID-19 virus. First of all, I would like to know, City Manager, Mr. Toy, could you please introduce its background?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You may recall at your January 19th meeting, the council received a request for Food for All for city support of their stay-home box program. During the public comments, and the council requested that we agendize this item for consideration this evening. Attached to the staff report is the request from Food for All. For the city of Sonoma, they're requesting $15,000 for their stay-home box program. The funds will be used to continue to provide the food and essential items to households who have tested positive for COVID-19 virus. The cost for each stay-home box is about $80. $15,000 would cover about 187 or so of these stay-home boxes, which would be distributed to households that have residents that either live or work in the city of Sonoma. They do estimate, Food for All estimates that about 60% of the 230 households that they have assisted to date with the stay-home box program are either Sonoma residents or they work in the city of Sonoma. As staff, we do support this contribution. We think it's really important that households that test positive for COVID do stay home and they don't feel the need to have to shop for their essential household items. We do think that this is a one-time contribution and that any future contribution to the program should actually be discussed as part of the budget approval process when the council has a discussion related to community partners and community organizations. I think Celeste for the Food for All program might be present in the audience should you have any questions of her regarding the program. But otherwise, that's the staff report.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toy. Right now, we can discuss. Any comments? Councilmember Agrimonti?
Sure. Thank you. Couple of things. I know that the fiscal agent for Food for All is North Bay Organizing Project, which is, a wonderful organization. And I know Food for All does wonderful, wonderful work. It's such an important role that so many nonprofits are playing. And, it doesn't matter the people you serve, whether they live in Sonoma, whether they live in Valley, which I think is important. And I really think, for me, I would like to say, I would rather give a slow yes than a quick no. And the reason I'm saying that is, I know how much money North Bay Organizing Project has, but there's nothing here to tell us about the solvency for Food for All. I'm not aware of any I-990. That's something I think I've been a fiscal agent, belonged to a board, and we served as fiscal agents for different groups. But I just wanted to know what type of revenue, or I know there's a need, obviously, but I'd just like to know what else is there that someone can tell me about the group.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Agrimonti. Any more comments, discussion?
I'd just like to note that the actual resolution itself was submitted to us later this afternoon. I don't want that to get in the way of us approving the $15,000 for this wonderful effort that, but I just wanted to make a note if people are looking for it, that's what happened. But I don't think it should stop us from making the contribution.
Yeah. So, and that for me, thank you for explaining that. But I come from a nonprofit world, and when anybody approaches us for city money, for taxpayers' money, I'd like to know what the ability of the organization is. Just giving me what North Bay Organizing Project has is not an indication for me. I really am very happy to approve this, but I just would like to say I'd rather give a slow yes than a quick no. So if there's anyone out there.
Mr. Toya, you want to say something?
Oh, well, someone from the organization would have to speak, but my experience working with the third party, I call them kind of third party administrators, where the organization, which may not be an actual incorporated nonprofit, works with the third party that helps control the funding. And we would work with that organization to make sure the funding goes appropriately for what it's going to be used for. So that's the check-in and
right and
the process.
Actually, so the money doesn't go to Food for All; it will go to North Bay.
That's correct.
That's okay. I'm comfortable with that, but we still don't know what their capacity is, and that's why they have a fiscal agent. So I just, another thing I wanted to mention, we are going to be working on a South County plan. Hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed. Ms. Garrett and also Jack, we're going to be meeting with Susan Warren, I think in a few days, to be able to discuss that. And I think that many of the organizations belong within that, under that umbrella of funding. And that's why we're going to go to them and ask for a South Bay plan. As I said, I'm very comfortable approving this, but I need to know the solvency of this organization. So I'm good with it, but I just need, we need to have some kind of some information about what their budget is. I don't doubt should they do good work. That's not my issue. Oh.
Vice Barnett, please.
Yes. Councilwoman Agrimonti, are you talking about the solvency of Food for All or the North Bay Organizing Project?
The Food for All.
Okay.
Because they're within that, and I just don't know what that is.
I think you raise, valid questions, obviously. Just in terms of the timing, though, from what I had a conversation with Celeste Winders about this. Food for All has been doing great work in our valley for the last 2 years. This seems to be a time-sensitive request, obviously, due to the surge, that hopefully is abating right now. And so in terms of slow, yes, perhaps the need might not be there in 2 weeks or a month as much as it is now. And so that's the only thing I would want to say about that.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate your saying this, but I think when people come to this is what they need to show us. I know they do good work, and I think that's really important. And in addition, we're hoping that when we get our South County plan, that Food for All will be included under that umbrella, which is very important. But I thought I needed to mention these things. So possibly I would say, yes, I'm for this, but I would appreciate them giving us whatever they've got to show us. And if they have an I-990, I would appreciate that, as other nonprofits do. And I just wanted to add, we help, the city of Sonoma helps organizations all over the valley. So it's nothing new, it's nothing different. And I think it's really important, especially with our recreation and community services agreements that we have with nonprofits. So, but I just think it's important when people approach us, they should offer that.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Agrimonti. I really appreciate and fully understand how serious you are using our cities and the money. And also, I would like to the shares what kind of the money. This is the money has come from our city council's discretionary, and then
Right.
that is a very, very minimum. And right now, on the balance just in $18,000. So no, we are not happy. We are not generous and spending the money for what it is necessary. My second thought is that, and in our city and in our valley, we have many nonprofit organizations doing the same thing. SOS, Fish, Vintage House. They are not facing the same situation of dramatically increase of cost basis, food cost basis. So in this way, but I really appreciate this all for the food, this wonderful program, and but comparative to say you are very young, the compare and the Fish and Vintage House, they are doing the every day right now, right? But I'm thinking, possibly, technically, if it is fair, that is, we should divide it by the, how many, nonprofit organization and support them as well. Or they can have the cooperation, share the clients. They have the priority list, which the clients need the most. Because I appreciate they have the customer base. They are working on that, especially in our Springs area. So
Right.
I basically support this program. I will not say if we approve this program, other than nonprofit organization, they are providing free food every day, every week. They will say that we're not fair, but definitely we need and all the food provide detailed information. Who you are serving, how much exactly you spend. In this way, we will have a good answer to the money, where the money goes to, because this is the money, it's kind of flexible. We are very generous. We never use for this kind of money. We just dedicated for this money.
But as I offered, I do support this, but I think it's possibly a lesson learned that when you approach the council, you really have to have more information.
That is right.
I know they do wonderful work, I've heard. And in fact, I think I'm going to be meeting with my Miss Itiri. Yeah. We're going to go to breakfast or lunch. So I agree, but I just wanted to let them know.
Yes.
This is what
that's great. Yeah.
So we just to approve.
Mm-hmm. That.
Or you have to go to the public.
And also, I want to tell everybody, this is on the last bullet. We don't have another, 15,000 or this kind of money. And also, if we prove this project, $15,000, also it represents our city council, our staff fully support our valley's disadvantaged group, especially during this very challenging time of the COVID-19. So it's very positive.
So with the city clerk, is there anyone waiting to speak from Food for All? Do you know?
They would have to raise their hand. I don't recognize Celeste Winder's name in the list. I was looking for it. There is someone that's just a number 845845. If they would like to, if they would raise their hand so that we can identify them, that would be really helpful. But I don't see anyone raising their hand, Councilmember.
Yeah, right now we can open. Yeah, we just wait for the public comments. How about the applicant? Is applicant today Ms. Winders? I believe the last council meeting, she was here.
Mr. Mayor, I don't see anybody raising their hand or any of the people that have been named or are included in this document. I don't see them as well. And, you know, with no public comment, I'd like to move approval.
We do have someone raising their hand for public comment.
All right.
Sorry,
Okay,
I spoke
great.
too soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's Fred Alabach.
Good evening, Mayor Ding, and members of the City Council. I would like to strongly support the staff recommendation to make this donation to Food for All. I seriously doubt if Fish or Vintage House would think that it was unfair that the clients were being served, because they're all the same clients, and they would probably be happy that these people were being served by whoever. So I don't think there's a fairness issue there that will come up between the other organizations, because they have the same type of clients. And I know all the people in Food for All. I don't believe anybody gets paid. This is fully volunteer, so there's no overhead. This is all labor of love, and you can see on their Facebook page all the bags of food that they put out, and then all the drivers that come and drive the food to the people who are in need, are probably the most vulnerable people in the valley. So I might just strongly support it. I think it's a great idea, and I hope that you vote to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alabak.
Don't see anyone else raising their hand this time, Mayor Dean.
All right.
I'd like to move approval of
Yeah.
the $15,000.
Yes, we already closed the public.
All right. Well, I'll
Yes,
second.
we can.
Sorry.
We can discuss it more if you have more comments. Otherwise,
No, I'm good.
to make the motion.
I'd like to move approval that even though we don't have a resolution, that we indeed send $15,000 to Comida para Todos and Food for All.
All right. Who's second?
I'll second.
Great. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Barnett,
Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti,
But I still would like to know if we can get some numbers from Food for All.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
And
Yeah.
yeah, if possible, motion is approved. I appreciate Councilmember Agrimonti. You know, we going to follow up and provide you on the detail and accounts and the detail, the financial records, show us for our records. All right, let's move to next item, agenda number 5, public hearing. Today, we don't have a public hearing. Agenda number 6, regular calendar. 6.1, discussion, consider directing the staff to work with the council's ad hoc development and code revision subcommittee or other ad hoc subcommittee to development recommendations for the council reconsideration and regarding the continuing of the El Fresco Sonoma program. For example, Parklets. Beyond October the 31st, 2021, including but not limited to parklets and design standards, use of the public spaces, for example, sidewalks, parking spaces and private outdoor spaces, possible in the annual encroachment fees and the parking impacts, possible and provide a general direction to the staff as appropriate. City Manager, Mr. Toy, could you please introduce the background information for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as background, one of the council goals for fiscal year 21-22 is to create design standards and long-term plans for parklets. The city's Alfresco Sonoma program is slated to expire at the end of October 31st, 2022, and the council actually requested that this item be placed on this agenda for discussion. So, as a little more background, back in May 18th, 2020, council adopted a resolution which really authorized city staff to work with the Chamber of Commerce, Visitors Bureau, really take a series of steps to try to keep the businesses alive during the beginning stages of COVID-19. Like most communities, we really didn't know how long this thing was going to last, what the implications were. But like most communities, we took action like issuing temporary use permits or encroachment permits, whatever type of licensing to allow the use of outdoor public spaces, such as parklets in the public spaces. We did things like adjust for delivery, drop off, and pickup type zones in front of businesses. And ultimately that became known as the Alfresco Sonoma program. So back in April of 2021, the council discussed the extension of the Alfresco Sonoma program. It talked about a lot of policy issues, but at the end of the day, the council agreed to extend the program through October 31st this year, 2022. So I think what's before the council is many of the same issues and policies that you discussed in April 2021 still apply now because it has to do with the long range impacts of the Alfresco Sonoma program. For this discussion, a key component of that program are parklets. So we're focusing most of our discussion on the parklets. So why extend parklets? Similar back to when you talked about it April of last year, it allows time for the businesses to recoup their investments to do the parklets. Those parklets for use of outdoor spaces and outdoor dining or outdoor uses may actually be essential for the business to survive or to be successful. The more businesses are successful, the more the city benefits because we get sales tax from food and beverage. It could be people feel safer still sitting outside than they do inside. It could be people enjoy sitting outside more, the vibrancy of sitting outside. And there's other issues as in we really don't know if there's going to be future surges or what's going to happen with the pandemic. So you still may need that type of use. Now, why not extend the parklets further? Well, originally, they were supposed to be short-term responses to the pandemic for opportunities for businesses to survive. Maybe now's the time you can go back to how they were before pre-pandemic and maybe things are fine. Aesthetically, the parklets probably need some kind of consistency. There's consistency that may not reflect the character of Sonoma. Parklets take away parking from adjacent businesses, and it's clear not all businesses benefit or not all businesses feel they benefit from these parklets, and it's a use of public property. So maybe there should be some costs associated with that. Now, ultimately, our staff recommendation is that we work with the council's ad hoc subcommittee on development code revision, mainly because of their expertise in planning and design. And we work with them to come up with recommendations related to Alfresco Sonoma program. We anticipate the subcommittee would bring in resources such as the Chamber of Commerce and the Visitors Bureau to help with this process. There could be some budgetary things that we might need to do and to move some things concurrently. So maybe one thing, in order for the council to keep all its options open related to parklets, it may be that we have to do some things concurrently, such as take design standards for parklets, perhaps to the design review, HPC, and or the planning commission for feedback and direction. And ultimately that may have to come to the council. That will come to the council for approval. The committee would address those different things that you had mentioned, Mr. Mayor, which has to do with design standards, use of public spaces, use of private spaces, should there be a fee, what's the permitting process, and so on. But the one thing as staff that we want to point out is we're not recommending that the closure of East First Street be extended beyond the current deadline of October 31st, 2022. And part of the reason for that is police and fire would like to see East First Street East open back up, but they're willing to wait until November 1st. We'll work closely with the two businesses, Maya and Pangloss Cellars, to make sure there's a smooth transition. And so really what the recommendation is from staff is we're going to reopen, well, we're going to follow the current policy to reopen East First Street East November 1st, and we're going to work with the subcommittee to develop a long-range plan for the council's consideration related to parklets and other aspects of the Alfresco Sonoma program. Now, your planning director, he actually has some maps of the current configurations and locations of the parklets and some pictures. So I don't know, for the council discussion, if you'd like to see that, then I would turn it over to your planning director to put up on, share his screen to show you some of the different things related to parklets around the square. But other than that, that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Toy. Do you think the planning director, David Stoller, any comments or any introduction at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just show you a map.
Thank you.
So this was an evolving art, so to speak, over the last couple of years. And as we began our process, we had different types of things to consider, whether it's a parklet, whether it was a drop-off zone, whether it, was it a parking space design versus a sidewalk design. Remember that we're talking right now primarily about the use of the public right-of-way. This would be not public property. And so if I can just walk you around the clock, anti-clockwise, you see here that we have Mary's. And by the way, if you're interested in photographs, I won't go through the photographs, but if you would like to see photographs of different designs, I've got the pictures in the order that I'm going around anti-clockwise here, beginning with Mary's. So we have Mary's today, we have Girl in the Fig in this location where my cursor is. We have EDK, followed by Steiner's, Valley. As you cross the street, we have Oso. Here, as City Manager Toy just mentioned, we have the closure where we have Pangloss and Maya. And you can see over here we have Della Santina and Café High, followed by Basque, Plaza Bistro, Sweet Scoops, and BV. And as you know, BV goes around this corner here onto Spain Street. So that currently shows you those particular parklets that we're talking about. I don't have analysis on how many parking spaces have been removed as a result of these, but we can certainly provide that information. I can tell you that the designs do vary from one from another, from what you could call an open area with lighting and seating, whether they have containment with K-rails, those are those orange barriers, if you will, versus tents in some cases, in addition to the barrier retainers, if you will, as we go around the plaza. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor, and again, happy to, if you're of interest, I can show you the photographs, or I'll stop sharing, whichever is your preference.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stoller. If any comments from our City Council?
Oh, well, I guess this is, oh, sorry. This is Madeline Agrimonti, and I'm so glad we have an ad hoc committee from the Planning Commission who's going to be responsible for this. I'm very happy about that. A couple of things I'm really in favor, as suggested by our city manager, to close First Street, to open it up, firstly. And I also possibly would like to understand, there are restaurants who have outdoor dining, but they also have outdoor space on their own property. So possibly that might be considered in the future to close the outdoor spaces, but I don't know. I think our ad hoc committee will be more equipped and better equipped to look into that.
Great.
And of course, the overarching issue is parking. That's one of our big issues here. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, if I can,
Yes.
a question from me to Councilmember Agrimonti. Are you talking about, for example, Basque, where Basque has got a couple of chairs outside plus a parklet, or are you thinking of something else?
So people that have backyard areas, you know, like EDK has a huge area in back. I've been there. I think luckily for Sunflower, I don't think that they have anything in front, but they utilize their back space. There are other restaurants who have back spaces, and possibly that might be something that the ad hoc committee can look into. And I know that, you know, this COVID is so unpredictable, it could bring people back outside. So those are something that I would imagine the committee would look at, but it's just something that I thought of, and I'm very appreciative of the closures on First Street East. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Agrimonti. Vice Mayor Barnett, I think you are ready to say.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I have are we just in a questions point here? This is not discussion. So I would like to join in when we get to discussion after we've heard from the public.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
More questions?
No questions. I also would like to hear from the public, and then I might have some comments and follow-up questions based on.
Great. Right now, let's open to the public.
Yeah, Fred Alabach.
Good evening again, Mayor Ding, members of the City Council and City staff. I think that Sunflower had outside tables before COVID-19. I could be wrong about that, but that seemed to me to be a really nice kind of cosmopolitan feel that didn't have all these barriers on the street and stuff, and served kind of the same purpose. So that kind of reminded me of New York City cosmopolitan feel, and I like that feel. But I don't really have any comment one way or another about the parklets. I would like to ask, I saw Planning Director Store's map, and I wondered why City Hall was #1, but all the other buildings around were in the hundreds. So I was just curious why the other buildings weren't like 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if anyone knows that, but that's all I have.
Well, we're #1 plaza.
Thank
right?
you. Thank you, Mr. Alaba.
Next, we have, looks like Mark from the Chamber, Mark Bodenhammer.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Ding and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'd like to start off just thanking everybody on not only this council, but previous councils for working with the businesses. And I really think we can be proud when you walk around the plaza and see compared to some of the other communities that are like Sonoma, we really have our entire business community intact. And I think it really is a testament to how much effort and thought this council and previous councils put into the Parklet program and everything else we did. Also want to thank staff. Everybody on city staff really rallied together to get creative and help the business community. Mr. Store, Wayne, Lisa, Christina, I mean, just all up and down, Wendy. We really were leaders in this whole process. And I think, again, something we can be super proud of as a community. And finally, I want to thank the community. I understand this is definitely something that's not normal. It is an ask of the community to be flexible and support these businesses, and they've really stepped up to support them. Speaking specifically about the parklets, these are very important to the local businesses. Many of them borrowed millions of dollars to stay open through the pandemic, and this is giving them an opportunity to recoup some of that and get financially sustainable. Also, I think Mr. Toy mentioned this earlier, but one of the more important things I think to point out is that this really does give people in our community who are not yet comfortable going into restaurants and wineries and businesses like that a place to gather and a place to still feel like they're a part of a community. And I really do think that the pros of these outweigh the cons. But it certainly is time to take a look at the aesthetics. And I'm really thankful to work with the ad hoc committee and people from the Planning Commission and the Design Review Board to see what we can do to find that appropriate balance, move forward, make sure our economy is still working, but also make sure that it's appropriate for the residents, the aesthetics, and the historic nature of the plaza. So we're here. The Visitors Bureau is here. The Vintners and Growers, all organizations are happy to help with outreach to the business community and get you all the information you guys need to make sure this is a smooth process. And thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bodenhammer.
Just a couple more seconds here to see if anyone wants to raise their hand before you close public comment. I'm not seeing anyone, Mayor Ding.
All right, let's close our public comments. Let's discuss some more. Oh.
There's another member of the public that has.
Oh, now another member. Ms. Barr, can you double check for sure? Everyone.
It's Miranda Ives.
All right, great. Yeah.
Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for putting this together today. I'm grateful to hear the real-time concerns, and I'm just really raising my hand as a restaurant owner, but with a parklet, but it's on private property to the back. I guess I'm really just sort of sticking up for my comrades by saying that, you know, the city required us to hire architects for these parklets to the tune of thousands and thousands of dollars. And I would say we are all far from recouping properly from COVID-19. And I just think perhaps while important to raise it at this time, that to really put it on the table to scrap it is grossly premature. And I just wanted to say that we value the rally that the city went through to provide us with solutions, but that they were expensive, time-consuming, and stressful. And I just was hoping that the human component of our council can also understand that the business owners of the plaza, to Mark's point, you know, we're still struggling. That has not improved greatly. And I think to overestimate how much people have really adjusted and recouped thus far, it would be unfortunate to assume that everybody has leveled up, not even close. And I just wanted to put in that word for all the restaurants in Sonoma and business people. You know, this has cost big, big money just to have a temporary thing that seems to be up for grabs. Yes, no, maybe so all the time. It's a stressful situation. So I just wanted to say in gratitude, thank you for the program, but also to be aware that I do not think we're out of the woods. And until there's no COVID mandates like wearing masks inside, I don't see how these programs can go away anytime soon. Of course, it would have been better had there been a directive for an aesthetic protocol, but there wasn't. And I think to punish parklets now because it doesn't look perfect and spend more money, that just seems, it just seems back to front. And of course, we all are in unprecedented times, and it would have been better to have some kind of mandate for everyone to look the same. That didn't happen, but I don't think punishing parklets at this point and making them redo things or taking them away is the right decision. Anyways, thank you so much for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ives.
If there's anyone else before we close public comment. Yes, you have Nancy Parmalee.
All right. Hi, Ms.
Good evening.
It's your turn.
I would like to concur with the staff report to open up First Street East. It's been a nuisance for everybody that lives on the street, for the Women's Club, for the Baptist Church, and I think opening up the street is the best thing you could do. I wish it were yesterday, but when you get around to it, that'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parmalee.
You have Ryan Lowe from Pangloss Sellers.
Hi, Lily, it's your turn.
Hi, thank you, City Council, and thank you to all the public commenters prior to me. The Parklet program, to echo Ms. Ives, has been extremely helpful to many of the businesses, obviously Pangloss included. And we did spend a lot of time with the city staff, and they were very extremely helpful in the process of helping us build the Parklet that we have. And obviously, we would love to keep that Parklet as long as possible, and look forward to working with city staff to see how we can make that happen. And I just wanted to put out there that it has been very successful for our business, and really helped us stay open and keep our team on staff during what was very challenging times for all of us. So just wanted to add that comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lilly.
Lori Winter.
My apologies. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that took 3 tries. Sorry about that. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to support the previous commenters wholeheartedly, Miranda and Ryan. And I'm just wondering, can this, the deadlines that understandably have months and dates attached to them, can they be conditional deadlines? So October, if the following conditions of COVID and regulations are met. So it's not like just a hard deadline, but it's a conditional date. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Winter.
Anyone else for public comment? Yes, Leslie John will be next.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I'm not sure of the format, but Leslie John, 824 2nd Street West, and also the general manager of Pangloss. And, you know, I thank the city council for all the time put into this. We worked extensive hours in COVID to work with the city. Ryan did a massive amount of work to get the Parklet up and running. And as he said, it really did save our business. And so as we look forward, I would ask that that there's conditions on how this is viewed. We don't know where we're headed in the next 3 to 6 months. And so for us to make, or the city council to make a ruling now on opening it November, December, could really impact 60% of our team is based in the town of Sonoma. And a fair amount of the TOT and the tax revenue that goes to city funding is from, you know, Pangloss and Maya. And I just wish, I hope that you guys, I'm not sure if this is just, I'm just again logging on, so pardon me if I'm misspeaking, but I think all parklets should have the conditional view of, we don't know what's happening in 3 months. And so if you make a ruling that determines what happens in November, it could be aggressive. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. John.
Let's see. At this point, there's no one, but if we want to make one last call for public comment on this item. Doesn't appear anybody else is raising their hand, Mayor Dean.
All right. Yeah, let's close our public comments right now. Again, you know, public comments still is available for you. You can send an email, you can call, leave the message. We want to hear. All right, let's discuss again within our council and see if any further detailed actually your comments, possibly we can move forward. Councilmember Felder.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Ding. I would like to lead this off, first of all, with the remark that I certainly support the idea, the concept of parklets. But I think we have to come up with something where we phase out the temporary use of parklets into something that's a sustainable, long-term design solution. And the parklets have been in existence for, will have been in existence for like 2.5 years by the time we get to the end of October. And that was only supposed to be a temporary solution to get through the worst of COVID. I think it's imperative that we do a reset at that point and not eliminate necessarily parklets, but to come to the realization that we have to move forward with something that is of more permanent nature, not necessarily the final design solution, but something that is more aesthetically pleasing, is fair to the rest of the retail establishments on the plaza, meaning that the restaurants are now being able to use public space. I think that we need to put into effect some kind of an encroachment permit to allow them to continue to use that public space to spread the burden of this thing, and it would help us put some money in the coffers to take care of other needs that we have for the city. But most importantly, I think that we didn't know back in spring of 2020 where this was going to head, and we had to react quickly. But I think now we're looking at, from a council point of view, at a more of a long-term solution. We are approaching it now not to impose any immediate solution, but to do it in a way that we can do it orderly and come up with some standards and come up with some other policies that make it more appropriate to continue on. So that's my comments for now. But I do support parklets in general.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Felder. Vice Mayor Barnett, please.
Thank you, Mayor Ding. I support a lot of what Councilman Felder had to say. Obviously the pandemic has been difficult for our local businesses and for everyone really. But I think some good has come out of it. And I think the sort of vibrancy that this outdoor dining and there's the parklets have offered to the plaza, I think is something worthy of consideration and worthy of finding a way to create, an opportunity for outdoor dining and that sort of European style vibrancy in the long term. But it's complicated. I mean, there are a lot of trade-offs. And so I'm really happy that we're having this conversation now as early as possible before October to try to figure this out with our business community, our restaurants, our retail on the plaza, the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitors Bureau, our city council, our city staff, et cetera. I do want to echo a lot of the comments of Mark Bodenhammer, who spoke earlier. These parklets have been critical for our local restaurants and our local businesses, and that's really a testament to, again, an earlier city council that approved this, and our city staff that really put this all together. And so, moving forward, I don't know if this is possible, but I would love a way to keep outdoor dining on the plaza that complements aesthetically our national landmark plaza, that really takes into consideration our parking issues. I've thought before it would be nice to extend sidewalks and have sort of tables and umbrellas, but that's not obviously going to happen by October, and that's not going to happen overnight. Perhaps this conversation will start a sort of long-term vision for trying to create that environment in the plaza, which I think our local residents love, or many do, obviously, and our visitors also like that as well. And obviously it's very important for our local businesses. And so, obviously aesthetics will be important though. I mean, these are temporary structures. And so moving forward to a more permanent nature, we need to sort of figure this out from a design standard and get it right. As I said a year ago, I never want to see these orange K-rails again. And I think that there are ways to do that. I think the Girl in the Fig has sort of built around them. I don't even know if they're required. I think what's very clear from just the staff report and just from our conversation right now is there are still a lot of questions to be answered. And I think it's really important we get as much input from the business community and from our local residents and from retailers on the plaza that obviously need parking. And so I'm just, again, happy we're having this conversation. And at this point, because we have to figure out a way to, in my view, keep that vibrancy on the plaza, but just to do it the right way.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Barnett. Council Member Agrimonti, you want to?
I saw Sandra, our council member, has had her hand up.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The order is okay.
Yeah, Council Member Lowe. Yeah, please.
Again, I'd like to agree with my colleagues on some of the comments. I'm also, hugely in favor of finding a way to keep our outdoor dining on the plaza. I enjoy it very much. People I talk to enjoy it, whether it's a pandemic related or not. It's just really, it's really lovely. And prior to the pandemic, we all know how everybody fought to get those outdoor chairs in front of the Swiss or in front of somewhere, so we know that's always been something that people in Sonoma have responded well to. So I'm in favor of making sure that this happens, and keeping businesses, thriving so that people are employed is a huge interest of mine. And I'm very happy to be supportive of any plan that encourages and does good things for businesses and for their employees. To that extent, I'd like to see something for our shopkeeping stores as well, because I know that the parking situation, I heard earlier from Mr. Storr, he didn't have the numbers of how many parking spaces, which was going to be a question I had, but I'm sure we can get that number. I could probably walk around and count them myself. But, I have heard that there is a problem, and I have also heard that some of the parklets aren't as frequently used all the time, and they seem like maybe they could be portable or in some way only used on weekend or something. I don't know, but it would be it seems like we should also find something to help the stores. I think we should I'm in favor of helping all of our businesses, and I don't want to help prefer one over the other. And so I think we need to find something. I've heard people, I know that's not the subject of this discussion, but I'd like to bring it back at some point and talk about, reserve, 20-minute parking in front of stores that I know have heavy objects that people want to come in and purchase, and they can't walk around with them. So I think we should try to do something. October is a really beautiful month in Sonoma and Northern California in general. And I hope that if we don't have everything nailed down, that we can extend that deadline to get it right. I think it's more important to get it right than to, pull this away from people. I'm really impressed with everything I've heard from people who testified tonight about the architecture and the effort that they've put in it. And believe me, it's shown. They, by and large, it's been really a beautiful experience. So I would like to also find out about tents. That's a question I have. Some people have asked whether or not they really are COVID safe, if you will, or if we're just really creating another external, an outside internal environment. So that's just a question. I'm not against them one way or the other. I just would like to know if they actually do meet COVID standards, because that question has come up from people from time to time. And those are my comments for now. And thank you very much. And thanks so much to the chamber and to all of the restaurants and the stores for helping Sonoma weather this storm and doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Lowe. Hi, Councilmember Agrimonti.
Yes, thank you. If later on our city manager, I am not totally equipped to discuss the orange barriers. I remember in the beginning, they weren't even locked. They do have water in them. They are safe. It's a physics thing. If you hit one, it doesn't go propelling into a person. It has to pull all the others. And I'm not an engineer, but that's what I understand. So I think because I have a question here that somebody wanted to know about those orange barriers. And yes, they're ugly. The other thing is, and I think I've asked our city manager, and I think he did move on that. There have been one very serious accident in a parklet and one crazy one where a person, even though we were told by experts that it would never happen, but a person backed up all the way across the street into the bistro's parklet. So I was told that would never happen. It was impossible, but it did. Gladly no one was hurt, but someone was hurt in one of the ones that the accident that happened, was taken to the hospital, had stitches and a concussion. So I've asked our city manager, and possibly he could address it later on, that there has to be some type of reporting that goes on from the restaurant. I don't even know how that's done, but I would imagine if someone's hurt in your restaurant, you would think that would be important to them. So I understand hearing about First Street East. It's tough, and I support, we could call it the Kelso rule, because I support the future of these outdoor dining areas. I think Sonoma is perfect for it, but I had someone text me and say 70 spaces are lost because of all this. I have no idea, but so those are just a couple of comments. I just want to make sure that the accidents are reported in some way, because the police said nobody told them about this accident. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mostly, I agree with all my co-workers, colleagues. I fully support and Parklet, because here in the Sonoma, we needed something creative and something that is new. And also thank you to our chambers and the visitor bureaus, our business communities. You spend hours and hours, day and days, and find out our great plan for the past 2 years. Overall, from my discussion with our local people, most of the people like it, very positive. As to the some of the technical issue, Councilmember Agrimonti also mentioned specific design or engineering. I would like to, we need to pay more the attention or work closely with the planning commission. They can do the more detailed work, and each specific specific restaurant owners what they need, and then we can save out the time. So I pretty much for sure on the planning commission we're doing a better job than us. One. Number two, also I would like to see some other cities, they plan how they handle these kind of the parklets in the short term and in the long term. And because here we are in Sonoma, it's very unique, but we have some of the comments with the other city and look at how about Sebastopol, how about in Pittsburgh. I believe it's, we can exchange, we can learn each other, and try to be better. And for the First Street East, I support open up because we already close out for a while, and also for business appearance also, and we needed to include that in the area. This is the third point. My fourth point is as to the time. I agree, and we should have a little bit of the flexible instead of the very sharp line and October 31st or something like that. And according to our pandemic, that is situation, and of course, even right now, and still, and is out of control. Nobody can expect. In this way, we can support our local communities. Again, I want to say thank you for our restaurant owners, our local business owners. Your hard work, you are the big taxpayer for our city, and 1/3 of the sales and the tax comes from your places. We take this chance saying thank you, appreciate it. We will work together. City Manager, Mr. Toy, do we have any, Vice Mayor,
yes.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Ding. I think your idea of comparing or seeing how other cities are doing that is an excellent one. So I would encourage that to occur. I also just wanted to follow up. There's obviously been some discussion about parking. And I know when we put this on our council goals for this year, parklets were always sort of in concert with looking at our downtown parking because obviously they're connected. David, or didn't we have like a downtown parking study at one point? And sort of what's the progress? Because that was supposed to be sort of handled in concert with parklets. What's going on with that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can, prior to my arrival at the city, which was the fall of 2018, just before I arrived, there was the release of a document, a draft downtown parking document performed by W-Trans. So it was released in 2018, but it was actually prepared and released in 2016 as a working document, but it was based on 2014 data with respect to analyzing the parking at Casa Grande and the other city lot over on the east side. And specifically, it talked about having utilization of parking relative to Tuesday night markets, and also whether there should be expansion of the timing of people parking there for 2 hours and 3 hours, and looking at other timing. The data was weak because of the timing when the analysis was done. And so we have over the last couple of years, and I'd have to ask Sue, but I seem to recall that we had maybe 10 or 15,000, Sue, I think, put away into our budget to actually update that. And I think based on your discussion tonight, Mayor Ding and council members, it would be a good idea, I think, to at least contact W-Trans to ask for an update to that report. Now that we have information on parklets, we've got a semi-fixed design with the existing parklets that we have. Maybe we can do more parklets, maybe we can do less. Then that also goes to the idea of extending sidewalks as well, and also the reopening. They could look at the reopening of First Street East as well. So that'd be my comment, would be to recommend that we update that report.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Stoller. Mr. Toyer, do you have any suggestions or good comments? Do we need to make some decision or?
No, Mr. Mayor, actually, based on the council direction, if I have it correctly, is that the council is indicating it's okay for staff to work with the council's ad hoc subcommittee to come back with recommendations to the council on a long-range plan for parklets and the alfresco Sonoma program. Well, within that, there could be some concurrent things that need to happen, and that's okay if we have to go to design review or planning commission for standards or have them work on standards. If we need to update the parking study, which I just looked, it was done in October 2016. So if we have to update portions of that, and it sounds like from the council staff can stick with the reopening of First Street East, effective November 1st, but I would toss out, we can talk with Pangloss and like work with the subcommittee just to see if there's anything related to some other aspects that Pangloss could do related to the street still being reopened. So it kind of keeps the ability to keep talking about it with the understanding of at this moment, the expiration date's the end of October for the closure of the street. So it would reopen November 1st, unless the council were to decide otherwise in the future.
All right. Thank you so much. Our council members, do you have anything want to clarify? Questions?
The only thing Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to explain the orange.
Yes, we already. Mm-hmm.
And also I have to assume that our city manager has moved forward with some issue, with some correspondence or something to enable restaurants or whomever report accidents at parklets.
So, Mr. Mayor, for me, so yes, for the reporting part, we just made that a requirement of their permit. So they have to report. My understanding, and then my understanding on the orange K rails is that the traffic engineer recommended the use of those to provide additional safety, but they are not required for parklets. The speed levels around the plaza, I don't think you really need something at that level if you did not want to do something like that. So that's my understanding. It was something the traffic engineer recommended, but it's not necessarily required for the parklets around the plaza. Doesn't apply to Highway 12 because Caltrans would have different standards if they were to allow it, which it did on a temporary basis. So hopefully that answers the question around the orange K-rails.
So hopefully our ad hoc committee will look into that with the barriers. It kind of scares me that some of the places have little sticks and a little bit of chicken wire or something. So that I just wanted to mention that to the ad hoc committee. But thank you, Mr. Toy.
Yeah, I think the safety standards are really important. Thank you for mentioning it, Ms. Agrimonti. And I don't think it's a matter of speed. It's a matter of the weight of a car against a human. And you can do that very slowly and cause a lot of damage. So I think that, I'm sure there are engineers that understand this better than I do, but I think safety standards have to be obviously a part of our overall designs. And whether they're those orange things or whether there's something else, safety is always very important.
All right.
I might, if I may, Mr. Mayor, just come in.
Yeah.
Just remember that gray could be the new orange because K rails do not have to be orange. There are other materials and colors that could be provided that will provide the same safety.
And as I mentioned, you can build around them. I mean, you can literally hide them within a structure as they've sort of done it growing the fig, at least on the inside. And so there are options there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the reason why we need to step out the door, see somebody else and what they are doing. Maybe we can get some good idea. Mm-hmm. All right. Mr. Toy, do you have more comments or suggestions? No?
No, Mr. Mayor, I believe I have direction from the council.
All right, that's great. If no from us have the more points, I would like to move forward. Okay. Do we need to have a 5-minute break?
Yes, so I can take a
5-minute break. Because the next one is SOS. Yeah. Sandra looks like not here.
I'm here.
Sandra. Sandra is here. All right, let's restart our meeting. Agenda number 6.2. Receive report from Sonoma Overnight Support, SOS, on the status of finding a temporary or permanent new location for safety in the parking program and provide a direction to the staff as appropriate. City Manager, Mr. Toy, could you please introduce the background, or possibly you should ask SOS for the people to introduce it in detail. Before you started, I would like to disclose one fact. Councilmember Dean, that is myself, is the board member for SOS. According to the letter from FPPC, California and the state, the last year, April 30, and they sent a letter to city attorney stating that Councilmember Dean has no any financial conflict of the interest with an SOS. So I'm allowed to discuss and vote, make any possible decision related SOS and the issue from in a council, as in a councilman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I get started, I think it's important to point out to the public that the item tonight in front of the council isn't consideration or discussion of the MOU with SOS to operate the safe parking program. What's on the agenda this evening is a discussion of the progress report from SOS on finding an alternate location for their safe parking program, as well as their other Haven operations. So I just wanted to point that out to the public. I think the emails were basically, we're talking about the extension. That would probably be for council consideration in March, but not for this evening. This evening is just a report on the status of finding an alternate location. So, you know, as a council, you may recall back in November 2019, you approved the MOU with the SOS to operate the current version of the safe parking program. On December 1st of 2021, the council extended the MOU with SOS until April 1st, 2022. At that meeting, the council had a lengthy discussion regarding the compatibility of the safe parking program with the operations of the Field of Dreams. SOS at that time reported it was trying to find other locations, but hadn't been successful for a variety of reasons. And as part of your approval for the council, you asked that we come back at this meeting to provide an update on the progress to date, as well as you wanted an update on the actions of HAS, or Homeless Action Sonoma, regarding its winter shelter. So I think to start off with SOS and staff, what we did is we reached out to our community partners, including churches, regarding interim location for the safe parking program. We also reached out to the County of Sonoma regarding the Veterans Building parking lot. The County Department of General Services indicated to us, as they stated before, that that's use was inconsistent with the uses and operations of the Veterans Building. So they turned that request down. And in general, what we're finding, nonprofits, including churches, they find that it could be incompatible with their operations during the day, could affect their parking that they may need for their operations, and or they don't have facilities to meet the needs of the program. At a minimum, some things we looked at is safe parking program. Does it require restroom facilities, water, security, intake system, and access to the operator's services? Obviously, the parking lot by the police station does provide access to the Haven, which has laundry and showers during the day. And it's right there in that parking lot. It's not too far away from the Sonoma Springs Community Hall, where SOS provides its food services. SOS does believe, and they could, when I'm done, I would ask that SOS can make a brief presentation. They could let you know that they believe the further you get away from their services, the more unlikely someone may be able to continue to participate in the program. From staff perspective, we did look at all our existing city facilities, such as parks, the city's corporation yards. Parks are all in residential areas, and we think that'd be incompatible use for the program. We also took a look at the corporation yard. It's on East First Street, East 8th Street East. So it's outside the city limits. SOS believes it's perhaps too far away for its participants, and SOS wouldn't be able to operate a program in that location. I think the difficulty in general, just finding a facility, is to provide all the services, and then you just don't know if you were to put something there at minimum services, would the current participants actually locate there, or they prefer to stay where they're at. With regard to HAS, Homeless Action Sonoma, we did talk to them about the concept of locating a safe parking program on their site. At this time, HAS indicated there's no room on their site for a safe parking program. They did indicate they are in the process of getting their permits from the county, and when they do get their county, they believe they'll be able to put on their quick haven shelters and their other services in a rather quick fashion once they have their approvals from the county. Something else staff we looked at hotel vouchers. Assuming hotel operator had availability and is willing to extend the program for a certain amount of time, we thought that would come out to about $36,000 a month based on 10 rooms or 30 nights, $119 a night. Now, our base assumption there is that SOS will continue to provide the services related to that regarding security and the support services they provide, but SOS could share with you what they believe, what that service currently costs them to do the hotel vouchers. So we did look at a variety of options. I think at this point, the staff recommendation is we continue to work with SOS. You hear from SOS on the progress, and that we come back to you on February 16th, your second council meeting in February, with an additional update on where we're at in the process. And then at that time, we could talk about when would be appropriate time to talk about any extension of MOUs related to SOS's service. That would probably be in March, but again, it'd be another report update in February. So unless there's any questions for staff, I believe Kathy King would like to make a presentation on materials attached to the staff report.
I have a question.
Mr. Toy. Yeah, Vice Mayor Barnett, please.
Thank you, Mayor Ding. In the staff report, Garrett, you said like the bare minimum for safe parking is access to services, and I'm curious why. I mean, if we had bathrooms, if we had sinks, etc., but then there was another like access to the services, how do you define that? And why is that a requirement of safe parking?
Well, it was the operator. So the operator, theoretic for these type of programs, usually provides additional services. I think you may be able to, as I read the regs, you'd be able to operate a safe parking program with just restroom, water, security. Right. You probably you have to have an intake system, and then you could maybe direct them to other services of providers. That would be my base assumption.
And then just one other question. You were talking about HAS up on the highway with their quick haven shelters. When you spoke with them, I believe they have 18 shelters. Do they already have individuals reserved for those?
It's a good
people in their cars, the 10 individuals that take advantage of safe parking. Could we, in partnership with HAS, give them an opportunity to actually have a real shelter, a quick haven shelter, which perhaps might eliminate the need for safe parking?
Right. I did talk to her about that in general, but I don't know if at that time, I don't remember what her answer was, if there was room because there's already a waiting list, or that be a possibility. But I could follow up with HAS to get an answer to your question, Vice Mayor Barnett.
Okay, those are just two questions that I had. But thank you.
Thank you so much. I think some of the points could be explained by staff's report. SOS. Oh, excuse me. Mr. Toyer, right now, I think we listen to SOS staff, or we have the comments from the council.
Councilwoman Lowe wanted to speak.
Is this the time to ask questions? I thought this was questions, right? And
I don't think so. But right now, it's still the introduction, I believe.
Oh, so sorry, Mr. Mayor, I indicated if the council wanted to ask staff questions, then we could turn it over to SOS to make a presentation. Or you can wait till SOS makes their presentation and then ask questions.
Yeah, because I'm wondering some of the detailed explanation or technical issues. Maybe let them explain and more clear and saving. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's very true. And if the question I asked can be better answered through the report from SOS, then I'm happy to hear it at that time. But I just want to know exactly what the circumstance regarding the veterans parking lot was, why it was incompatible in specific. It sounds like Ms. Agrimonti knows the answer to this. I don't know, but I'm not aware of the answer. So I just, if somebody would like to answer, that would be fine.
It's great. Thank you, Councilmember Lowe.
I think, Mayor Ding, I think 845845 is Kathy King, as she's the individual.
All right.
Raising their hand.
Yeah, we are ready. Yeah, please ask.
Me and hear me. Oh God, I got dressed up. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Jack, and thank you, Councilman, for asking me here tonight to talk about safe parking. I'm Kathy Kane, the Executive Director of Sonoma Overnight Support. And I wanted to tell you that since today's Groundhog Day, I feel like I'm in that movie Groundhog Day that we keep talking about safe parking, and I'm in that loop. So I was asked by City Manager to make a report on what SOS has been doing since the last council meeting on December 1st regarding looking for a site and what's happening. At that time, you did turn down our request to extend the safe parking to June 30th, 2022, and picked March 31st, 2022. Safe parking program, like you stated, has been in existence since 2019. We provide essential services, meals, showers, laundry, case management, and to the people who live in their cars and use their vehicles as a home. Each person is registered and vetted and monitored by the SOS staff. And at night, we have an overnight private security company that SOS pays for in the parking lot. The car clients are required to leave every day after SOS services. And then if they do not leave or they do break the rules, what we do is we make sure that they will not receive our services. So we do have leverage with them, and we have had people leave premises, and this would stop the parking lot from becoming an encampment. We've had 30 people in the last year that we've moved 22 people into other services such as Los Guilicos Village, permanent housing. Some have left on their own for relatives, and then some, because we work closely with them, they got help with their vehicles and were able to drive out of town. So this is the part where the services are really, really key. It's a holding part. Most people, we have 8 people now. Most of them have part-time jobs. Some of them do not want to live in a shelter, refuse to live in a shelter because they may be in their car with a loved one or a pet. And since the last 3 months, 37 people have said that they live in their car in the city of Sonoma. So that's an interesting stat. The board realizes that we have to have our services in one place. And we spent since the beginning of the pandemic looking for the past 2 years to carry out our mission of feeding the hungry and sheltering the homeless. First, by securing a place at Burlingame Hall, and then finally at the Springs Hall, AKA the Grange, where we do our food program and have wraparound services. Last month, we served 5,136 meals, close to an all-time high. And on Monday, we had an all-time high of 319 meals. And this surge, of which you talked about earlier, about Food for All and the other groups that are seeing, is not going away. Of the 771 people we served in 2021, 43% of them are Hispanic. The Hispanic community is the ones that have been hit hard by the pandemic, and especially this recent surge. We've looked into 12 possible alternative locations and or buildings, 3 in the last month. With the help of a local, well-respected realtor, we have looked at sites, and for the following reasons, they didn't work out. They were too small, like Happy Dog and El Diablo restaurants. The owners or the landlords refused to rent to us. Example, the Palms Yoga Studio and a garage showroom on Highway 12. Properties were too expensive or too far away from the services. I want to thank the 25 people that I know wrote in, encouraging the council to support SOS in our efforts to keep safe parking where it is, and to also to work with the city to make sure that we help our most vulnerable. The other point I wanted to make, that keeping people in the hotels, which we've done since December, the county has paid for that. December, they extended it to February. It cost SOS $29,900 for support services. So the hotel rooms are one, it's a separate contract with the county, and then a separate contract with SOS. So that cost is for 3 staff people. You have to feed people when you have those kind of services, 3 meals a day, which we do. We even deliver on the weekends. We have a case manager that's working with each person. And we also have an intake person on site checking the rooms every single day. So it is an expensive proposition to have hotel rooms. So I know that there's some people that do want to speak in favor of SOS and that they have written in, and I'd be glad to answer any more questions if you need to. The other question that you asked, Kelso, about services, you need to offer people services because it's not just a place that they live in their car. They need to move on and get help. They have to have laundry, showers because they're going to work. They have to have, porta potty. You can't just have a sink and a hose. You have to have services and a person there that's helping them move on. And that's what we've been doing for the past, since 2019. So again, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer. And I hope that some of our community supporters, churches, nonprofits will speak up in favor of us continuing on this. Really, it's a critical piece until we can find a new site or we can find a way to help people that refuse shelter, which seems counterintuitive, but they do, because they have the need to keep their belongings with them, keep their pets with them, and they just won't go into a shelter. So I'll take questions or let the public say things. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm grateful that you are listening.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
I have a question for Kathy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the last meeting and in the staff report, we were looking at all city properties, including the corporation yard on 8th Street East. In the staff report, it said you would not be interested in administering the program there. I'm curious if you could expand why, and if, for example, in the short term, the Haven still offers these day services, which I have questions about, why couldn't clients of your safe parking program perhaps park at the corporation yard and then during the day drive over to avail themselves of the services at the Haven?
They wouldn't do that because they wouldn't spend the gas on driving back and forth. It's 4.4 miles away. It's a big fenced in area that looks like a compound to me. And also you'd have to 24/7 have security there if you let cars in and out with your equipment. I'm not sure that people would like that.
It would just be overnight, right? And we have security anyway.
Who has security?
I thought you said that you pay for a security.
Yeah, we pay for a security company, but we'd have to pay to have someone out there because none of our staff is out there. I'd have to pay for a staff person out there. Where would they be?
Well,
I don't, and
in
the
terms of
gas
security-
cost. Oh, no.
In terms of security, it sounds like we're paying for security.
No, SOS is paying for security. I'm sorry, I got bounced off.
I guess I used the royal we, but security is being paid for at the Field of Dreams parking lot, correct? So we could just move that over perhaps to 8th Street East. And then,
No,
you know,
we
and
can't
it's
do
not-
that because
It's not 4 miles.
it's 4.4 miles.
No, it is not from
It's
8th Street East.
2.2 miles for there and 4.4 miles to the Grange where the food is.
Right, so it's 2 miles to 8th Street East.
2.2. When we had the Sonoma Alliance Church, we had to have a van that brought people over there. There's nothing around there. People park their cars, then they go in, they get food from 7-Eleven, they go to CVS, they go to their doctor's appointments.
Well, yeah, but
It's
the
in
goal-
the,
It's
they
a
wouldn't
safe
do it,
place- It's just a safe place to park at night.
but they come for the services. They'd have to drive in for the services, then drive back out there at night, and then the gates would be locked. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, or, you know, or we'd have security there. I mean, I'm sure.
I don't think it
Again,
would
we
work.
haven't really investigated that, but I think
Yeah.
it's worthy of further thought. That was my question.
Um,
All right.
And my
Other
question
questions?
was
Taffy,
regard-
do you have some of your staff needed?
yeah, other people would like to speak, but I'll answer questions. if-
Other people, I want to open the public comments area. What I mean is, do you have any staff want to do more presentation to, for the detailed information?
Yes, I have staff and our board would like to speak.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm standing up for Sandra Lowe. She,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just had a question about the
Sure.
I'm her
veterans.
representative.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I needed that. Thank you so much. Ms. Agrimonti, appreciate it. Perhaps Ms. King has the answer to my question regarding the compatibility of what the county said regarding the veterans.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We did deal with the county. It took us probably 2 to 3 months to put a portable shower in there, and they really did not want us there, and they actively worked against it. They would cut off electricity. They were pretty hostile, but the county made them do it because we needed a shower when we had to close the inside of the Haven for COVID, and they were not a happy partner. And my understanding is the county can't make them do anything because they have their own governing structure, the comrade or something. So they have never been.
So the county, the county can't make them do it. We can't
No.
make them do it. So somehow this is a private property? I don't think so.
No, that is county's property. So no,
Correct.
county's property.
It is.
This
So,
issue, and our supervisor, Susan Gorin, has been working with the county many years. We already looked at that in a place a long time ago, but we haven't gotten approved. The reason is, sometimes they said, oh, this is on the VA's building. We just take care of the VA. However, some part of our clients in the SOS, they are on the VA. Yeah, so that is the issue. I really don't know why the county, with the authority as a supervisor, never gotten the flu. It's very.
Well, I mean, that's my question. And since the services are so close, and yet would be a suitable distance away from the children and the families who have issues. It seems to me, the county has said no to me before, and then they've changed their mind. Just look at what we did with SDC. So I don't know. I just would like to investigate further. This is an ongoing thing. We're going to have to find better solutions. We're always looking for better solutions. And, I'm willing to call Supervisor Gorin and have her explain to me why this would be an incompatible use during the night when no one is there. for a supervised parking to take place. It seems to me like it would be a solution that might work. I mean, I'm not an expert in this, but it seems like it's
that'd be great.
Out of the realm of possibility. So I think I'd like to keep it on the table, if you will.
Great.
I have another question. I have another question for Kathy.
Yes. Yeah.
In the staff report, obviously, I had already talked about the corporation yard, but it was discussed that HAS didn't have room, I guess, at their facility. Have you been working with I mean, they've acquired a piece of land on the highway. Do you have a relationship with HAS? Do you work with HAS? I mean, obviously, you're both.
Our board is willing to talk with them once the huts get up and get going. We're willing to have a conversation with them.
So you would be open to doing, if they did have the room, I don't know, in terms of construction, staging, perhaps doing the program there. It's obviously close to the Grange where the food is.
Well, they said they didn't have room for safe parking.
Well, I mean, I think that it might be worth discussing that concept with them further. From what I understand, it really depends on permitting and financing. I mean, they certainly have room now, and it really depends on the staging of their construction project. And so if it's
I can't comment on what their availability is.
But you would be willing to.
I'd have to go back to the board and ask their permission.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Councilmember Agrimonti.
Thank you. So Kathy, I want to bring some levity into this. A former representative, and it's got to be funny. A former representative said, "Why don't you just give people money to go to the laundromat?" So would you explain what SOS does for people who wash their clothes with a change of something to wear?
Well, because they have the clothes on their back. So it's not like you can say, okay, you live in your car and now go wash your clothes. So what we have is a change of clothes for people. They put their own clothes in the washer. It's not touched by anybody else. Then the person then moves it into the dryer. But we have sweatpants and tops. We have hygiene, all our hygiene, razors, toiletries, and underwear, socks. So people sometimes need a change of clothes, or then they can wear that. Otherwise, they can't do their clothes. We did try giving people coins or get credit cards for the wash and dry, and they spent it. So that didn't work.
So another thing, Mr. Mayor, on I think it was our last meeting, Kelso and I shook hands because I really believe, as Kathy would like, to be able to move this somewhere else, just somewhere else. I don't think she's against it. It's just where might that be? I really appreciate it, Sandra, if you might be able to influence the powers that be, because we certainly, we haven't. And, this is still a continuation of the South County plan. There are a lot of things going on under this big umbrella. And so maybe that would behoove us. COTS has already said they would partner with us, which I think is wonderful because they're a really established organization.
I have one final question. In the sites that were part of the staff report, the one site, it was, I believe, the former La Salette up there on the highway that they built the building, and adjacent, obviously, to the Grange.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have any, and I know that the staff report said that there was some sort of proprietary, maybe private information there, but to me, that site seems obvious.
Yeah, that would be fabulous. We did, through our realtor, we did reach out to the owner. And we were told that it was not for lease and not for rent and not for sale. But if someone in the city knows that person and could, make an attempt to contact them, that would be fabulous, because that's an ideal place. And we thought about that from the get-go. But and the size is great, everything. But again, the person declined.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the more comments?
I'm done. Sandra, do you have anything you'd like to say?
As he, well, I would like to explain Vice Mayor Council Barnett's question regarding the courtyard. And beside the service we needed to provide, not just only a piece of the empty land and parking over there. Definitely, I agree with Cafe King. Definitely, you are in the front line. You know how to take care of the people. What additionally, I do have some feeling that place is not a proper place for the homeless safe parking. The reason is when I visit there, I see that they have a lot of the facilities, equipments, trucks over there. Also in the thousands, those kind of spare parts. That is for our city's water service and also the road service. The manager and the staff, they are working very hard back and forth. And also I look at, the security, is not, for example, like in the warehouse, they just leave it in the open. So as I know, this, road and water services, that is the key services for our city services. I really don't want to, anything else to bother them, have some negative, the impact. And mostly impressed me is they were in the two huge generators, that is MP in the generators, sitting outside, no any in the fence, no rock. If we were in a place out in the safe parking in that area, I do really, don't like to see that because I don't have any confidence because we needed to protect those kind of expensive and also very sensitive emergency service, emergency equipment. Last week, we got out of the power. So I asked them, I said, did you send this and generator to the city? They said, yes, we send it over there. Also, they have the two of them. So that is a minor concern. Besides, additional service from our cities, the overall running the operation, day to day. So because the people live, it's not only the land, we need to send in a portable party over there and the shower and the laundering, everything. Plus, we should have the management over there, supervising that place. So that is a minor, site visit and the feeling. I talked with the staff and also I talked with the manager. I didn't say exactly, I just say I look at in the field. Yeah, that is.
Some of my colleagues would like to speak, and are you opening it to the public now for comment?
I don't think if you have it in the staff, general, do some of the presentation just like you, we are ready to hear. But if any board member or your supporters, I would suggest let us, discuss it more, and then later on, I want to open the public.
Okay, I don't understand the process here.
Yes, how about Francisco? Is Francisco any chance to talk? Yeah, because he did a lot of the PowerPoint stuff.
Right.
And share.
He's trying to get in to talk. Can you let him in?
Yes.
It takes a few minutes, so he's in.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, council members. My name is Francisco Kilgore. I'm a longtime Sonoma resident and associate director of SOS. Thanks for having me this evening. As you can see, I've chosen for the background the Grange currently, which is where we serve, as Kathy mentioned, 5,000 meals last month. I'd like to reiterate a couple of points that Kathy made, which is first that of the 30 individuals who have been a part of our safe parking program in the last 3 years, 22 have moved on, whether that be to other services like LG Village, permanent housing and other opportunities, or to other places, such as to be with relatives elsewhere. Our goal is not to amass people and cars in the parking lot, but to provide a short-term stepping stone, a haven, if you will, where people can get necessary services as they begin their long-term transitions. Separating services from safe parking would make it more difficult for people to transition to better shelter opportunities. For those who live in their cars, driving back and forth between a distant parking lot, such as the one on 8th Street, and services elsewhere would mean the additional financial burden of paying for gas to drive. Some have health issues that would prevent them from walking, not to mention the additional staffing difficulties of spreading SOS even thinner across the already 2 locations and another hypothetical location. By providing people with a safe place to park, we enable them to take their mind off of the struggle to search for a safe place to sleep every night and allow them to think about other opportunities, including housing, work, and relationships. We understand that to do this, we need community partnership. We believe we must work together with the city of Sonoma as we are now, the field of dreams, and all Sonoma citizens to take care of our community needs. We have heard the community's concern, and as Kathy's mentioned, we've spent several months looking at possible alternative locations, including the 3 we presented here tonight. So far, we have not found any viable alternatives. There's a reason our current location was chosen after so many years of deliberation. It is adjacent to necessary services. It is in the backyard of the local police station. It is on the outer edges of the city while still giving access to public transport, food, and other needs. We hope the city of Sonoma and its citizens can help work with SOS to find a better solution that works for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Appreciate it. And Francisco is Executive Director for SOS. And if you need the detailed and technical question, he also is the right person to answer. If no, okay, now thank you again, Francisco. If there are no more questions or detailed explanation, and I would like to open to the public.
The first person we have is Judith Walsh.
Thank you for having this discussion. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, great. My name is Judith Walsh. I'm a resident of Sonoma County, but close to the city, and I'm a board member of SOS. And I think that Kathy and Francisco and some others have already made the case for how important it is for our services to be a part of the safe parking program so that people can move on to hopefully to better places and get their lives together. I think Kathy at one point in a board meeting had said the people in the safe parking, they still have their cars. They are more able to take SOS services and make something of them than the people who have nothing. I would like to add one other thing, and that is having attended the December 1 meeting where the decision was made to only extend the safe parking program to the end of March. The council directed city staff to lead the effort to find another space. So far, primarily, SOS has been the one trying to find a space, both before and now. We need your help. We need your help for more than just looking at city-owned property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Appreciate it.
And next we have Elena.
Hello, City Council members and Kathy and others. Thank you. My name is Elena Alioto. I live in Sonoma County, And I am also a member of SOS Board, and I don't want to reiterate everything that's been said. It's been true and good presentations by Kathy and Francisco and Judith. However, I would like to add that location is key. I want to emphasize that location is key. I can remember when the county placed a coordinated entry at the sheriff's annex on Grove and staffed it there, hoping that homeless people would go and sign up for coordinated entry. Well, nobody went. Why? Because it was way off the beaten path. And not only is location key, but not having the right location could cause many unintentional consequences. And some of those would be parking here and there and continuing to park at the Haven, which, truth be told, we'd have to have security at the location of the Haven and the location of a far distant place, i.e. 8th Street, in both places, because quite frankly, people get that homing instinct, and the parking lot at the Haven is their home, their safe parking home. So unless there was an alternative that was practical and close by, I don't think it would work. And I appreciate what we've been doing to find a location, and I, along with Judith, urge the city to help us find a location that can really work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina.
Next, we have Fred Allebach.
Good evening, Mayor Ding and members of the City Council and city staff again. I support keeping SOS in place and extending the permit as long as needed. I think a new site is surely going to present the same issues that we're seeing here. And the service next to the police station seems to me to be perfect. I wonder how SOS got there and has been there for years in the first place, and how did the city decide to put SOS services there? The city presumably allowed the placement, and now it's not okay. I don't understand who the original decision was to put SOS there. I would like to look at that. It's clear that nobody wants SOS near them, especially in the core area of the city, and the Veterans is a perfect example of a perfect space with no cooperation. I mean, this is public land too. It's just amazing that they won't cooperate more on that. My concern really is to not externalize people and an issue that the city decided to take on with the establishment of SOS at the current location. I think 8th Street East is too far out. And for housing and land use, the city pulled its sphere of influence in UGB back to 6th Street East in the year 2000. So it doesn't seem right for the city now to then be looking at land use in areas that it abandoned for land use. I would be all for re-extending the sphere of influence in the UGB out to 8th Street East, and then the city would have more open space there to work with. I think that, and also on the south side or other sites outside of the city amount to really externalizing a problem that's, well, I guess it's not purely a city problem, but I would like to see the city take its part of it and not put it on the edge. That just seems to me to be avoiding problems. I think another option, I believe I sent in with my comment, is the housing element potential sites map that shows lots of sites in the city that are probably going to be counted for low income housing. So those could be counted for possible homeless overnight spots, or any kind of innovative land use. And I'd also like to ask Chief Orlando if there's a problem currently, if there's any breaking of the law or incidents now at the overnight parking is what's the problem now that needs to be fixed, or if there is one there in terms of law breaking? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alaba.
One last call for public comment. Lori Winter.
Hi, Ms. Winter. That is your turn.
Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I had a couple of questions and a comment, but what I realized is that what I thought we would be seeing tonight or hearing about that the paper talked about hasn't been mentioned. So I guess I just want to start with that. I learned from a couple of days ago the article in the paper about this discussion tonight, and that several locations on private property around the city were being looked at. And I know here tonight mostly talk about city-owned properties. So first a question is that the case that several addresses that the IT reported on of private property was under consideration for movement of the safe parking as well as additional wraparound services? So that raises some questions as to what kind of wraparound services and if the overnight parking would operate in the same way that it does now, with the same type of hours and rules and all that kind of thing. And then a comment was that no matter which location does ultimately get chosen, I would request, and hopefully on behalf of a lot of people that might agree with me, that neighborhood meetings would happen. So neighborhoods would be actually, notified that this was a change in their neighborhood that was likely to happen or being considered, and that they would be a part of the process and be able to be involved in discussions and have questions answered, and be part of that. There be an actual process that involved neighborhood meetings before ultimate decisions were made. And lastly, I wondered if there is a planning process with the planning department and our zoning when it comes to changes of use for properties for fulfilling this need. So I want to thank you for all that you guys are doing, including Kathy King, and your dedication. And thanks for taking my question.
Thank you, Ms. Winter.
Next, we have C. Landry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking the time to let me speak. I just want to first introduce myself. I am a parent of 2 children in our community. I'm also a 4th generation here in Sonoma. I just want to start off by saying I support SOS. I think that the program itself is great, and I do think it is necessary. However, I do not support the location where it is currently. I do believe that the council and SOS working together to find a different location is fantastic. However, it seems as if while listening to this meeting, there's a lot of pleading going on. And I think it's necessary to speak up for the youth in our community. And let us not forget that we do have a softball season starting in 2 weeks. We have the largest turnout. We've actually added additional teams for our young youth. We have an 8U and a 6U team, meaning 6 and under years of age for our young youth, which is fantastic, and we're looking forward to it. However, a lot of our parents are concerned of the parking situation at the softball fields, and I think you can understand why. Unfortunately, there have been incidences in the past, including but not limited to indecent exposure, by current members or members of, maybe not current, I shouldn't say current, members of SOS to young children. And it is unfortunate that these things happen. I do not think they reflect all members of SOS. However, they have happened. And putting our youth at risk is something that should be taken very seriously by all members of the City Council. I would also like to bring up the fact that it is my understanding that the overnight parking permit should not be allowed and cannot be allowed because it does not meet the code for the Sonoma Municipal Code. So there's a lot of things I think I'm trying to address. From my understanding, it should not be allowed and cannot be allowed. I also think that it's necessary and very important for us to not forget, as we are pleading for these individuals who don't want to drive or cannot afford to drive certain mileage for food, that in leaving it how it is, we run the risk of putting our youth at potential danger, which we know has happened. And I think the city should take into consideration the ramifications of what that may be, right? So are we willing to risk that? Or are we going to continue to push forward and really be diligent and dig our feet in the ground and maybe even reach out to, which I'm not sure has been done yet, our organization, which is our softball organization, and ask for help. These parents also support this organization, but what has happened is unfortunate and it's put a bad taste in people's mouths. So to turn that around and get this community together and really rally for this, I think that you guys also need to consider the children and bring that to the forefront, right? So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Landry.
Anybody else wants to raise their hand, now's the time to do so. I don't see anyone raising their hand at this point, Mayor Dean.
All right. All right. Let's close the public comments for the meeting. But again, public comments always welcome anytime. I very much really appreciate it. And Ms. Landra, the very positive. We're asking all the community work together and to solve the issue. We focus on that. That is great. Any more comments or discussion?
I have a brief question.
Sure.
For perhaps Garrett or David. The Haven itself is a modular building, correct? I mean,
yeah, it was I think it's about 1,200 square feet.
Can that be moved? I mean, does it have a foundation? I mean, I seem to remember somebody telling me that building could physically be moved elsewhere easily, or not necessarily easily, but it's a modular building.
I believe, Mr. Vice Mayor, it's a post and beam, yeah. So it would require some, maneuverability, but it can be moved.
And then I just want to follow up because, we've sort of talked about the corporation yard at various points during this conversation. And I've just been looking, I've been there, but I'm just sort of looking at it on Google Earth here in an aerial. And, obviously we're going to have council discussion here, but I would be curious if there's been any thought or serious investigation from a staff perspective about, again, not just maybe safe parking at the corporation yard, but if we can't find anywhere else by April 1st, I'm just looking at the northeast corner of the corporation yard, and it seems like if we had a more efficient organization of all of our city resources on this lot, because right now it just looks like things are scattered all over the place, it looks like there could be room for this modular building on the corporation yard, maybe in the northeast corner with perhaps a lot in front of it. You would have a separate entrance from the, where the maintenance workers come in. And so I'm not persuaded at this point that the corporation yard makes no sense. And in the absence of anywhere else, I agree that it should be probably somewhere closer to, the highway or the center of town. But if we can't find anywhere else this is our responsibility. I would like to have more investigation from the staff perspective on the corporation yard, not just from a safe parking perspective, but perhaps even from, moving the modular building to that location. And so I didn't hear anyone disagree. So I hear we're all unanimous. And
yes,
okay.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm really excited about what Miss Landry offered. She said they should get together also and help us look for something. I mean, it's a concerted effort she spoke about. Shared that. I have to believe there's somewhere that will answer everything. And we left it up to staff, and that was the last thing we heard. So I don't know what that means. I know that Kathy, you've said you're working with a realtor, but maybe there are some other ideas. I've heard some great ideas outside of this, what we're doing now, and I'm kind of excited about one of them. So, but I won't share it because I don't want to nix anything. But like Miss Landry, like others, you know what? It isn't the best place. But like Kelso has said, we have to do something. And I have to say, I can't imagine that 8th Street East is the answer. I just don't feel that way. And, what do I know? I don't know anything about those things. But so that's where I am right now. So Miss Landry, give us a call.
That's great. Councilmember Felder.
Thank you. I would strongly support Councilwoman Lowe's suggestion that we get after the county more to use that Vets parking lot. It's unbelievable that we have a need for this service, and that we have public land available, and it is resisted by people that should be more sympathetic to the needs of the homeless. So anything we can do to pursue either Supervisor Gorin or anyone else in the county to come to grips with using that parking lot, which seems to be a reasonable answer for its proximity, would be appreciated from my perspective.
That's great. Thank you, Councilmember Felder. Mr. Stoller, do you have any comments?
Sandra would like
where's my rep?
Yeah,
Sandra would like to speak.
Oh, my rep.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to get back to what Ms. Walsh had to say regarding needing help from the city to find places. And I recognize that the city looked at places that were owned by the city, but I think that that Ms. Walsh is right, that we need to do more than that, and including things that, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Felder, for chiming in, but the county property, but also other properties, because, all of this, thankfully we have these wonderful organizations, HAS, SOS, that do these things, but ultimately these are people within the city limits who are our responsibility as well. And maybe the solution, maybe we can help more. So I just wanted to respond to Ms. Walsh's comment that we should do more to help, and I think I agree. And we need to keep looking, and if it requires whether it's moving the haven or building another haven somewhere that is a suitable place, further inquiring regarding the property next to the the Grange, whatever it takes. I think this is a very important issue, and we should spend some time doing as much research as possible, because unfortunately this issue is something that's been with us for a while and probably will be. And we need to use our resources to make sure it's a good solution for everybody. So I do want to say that at the last time this came forward, I was the police chief's remarks were important to me as far as keeping people in a safe place and sort of defending the current location. And I'm still of that mind that I don't want to, just all of a sudden abandon a place that right now is working, but I absolutely feel that we can do more to find another place. And I commit to trying as much as I can as well. But I just want to say I did vote to keep it there last time, which was a no vote against this current program. But I think we need to be firmly committed to finding a suitable, more long-term place, which is probably not where it is right now. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, so
thank you. Yes,
Mr. Mayor, you asked a question. My one comment, having heard your discussion now, is I did look into the original staff report while you were speaking. The Planning Commission approved, I believe, what's called a manufactured facility, and I can check with our building official to see how much that would take one way or the other to move it or relocate it elsewhere. And I can report back to the city manager on my findings. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Barnett, please.
Yeah, and David, can you, and I still haven't given my comments. I'm just sort of still asking questions and giving sort of thoughts. I remember a few years ago before the pandemic, and then when we had that big town hall, there was some discussion about the use permit. And obviously the pandemic shut down sort of operations at the Haven, but as that is starting to ramp back up, what are your thoughts about how these daytime services do not comply with the sort of the use permit? I know Mr. Allenbach during public comment said, well, how did this get here? Well, when it was approved in 2005 with the use permit, it was very specific that it had to be an overnight shelter, often for women and children, and that there could be no day services. And so how did we get to a point where they had a navigation center with, a whole spectrum of day services when this was decided in 2005, that was specifically said it couldn't happen because of the compatibility of the site?
Yes, thank you. I can probably take home from the town hall meeting, I think it was March of 2020, probably a couple of weeks before the pandemic, that one of the take homes was that staff was to review the use permit at some point with the Planning Commission. Specifically, there were, I think, 3 points. Number one, there was a condition of approval that restricted the use of the Haven, I believe from 4 p.m. to I want to say 8 or 9 a.m. the following morning. There was a curfew at 9:30. There was a requirement to have an on-site manager present when the facility was used. And I believe there was a restriction on the amount of weeks that a family could be there or people occupying the structure could be there. There were about 10 or 11 conditions of approval. And I think that was the point of the meeting at the Veterans, was that the staff would look at those. And of course, with the pandemic, the change of the use occurred. And so it was really a moot point at that point to actually get into that analysis. But clearly there were uses occurring that were inconsistent with that use permit.
Would you consider that use permit abandoned because it hasn't been in operation during the pandemic?
That's a difficult one because I haven't really understood the level of use of the facility by families or people within that within the bedrooms there. I'd have to defer to Kathy to let us know how the structure has been used over the last couple of years.
Thank you. Well, just again, to follow up on that, and Fred, Fred Alabach's comment about that. When this was originally proposed and approved in 2005, 2006, obviously compatibility was a huge issue back then. And that's why this use permit was created in a way to try to make it compatible with the Field of Dreams. And over time, obviously, that compatibility has been challenged. Kathy began her comments saying, I feel like it's Groundhog Day. And I totally agree. You know, we sort of come back to this issue over and over. And so we do need, as a community and as a city in partnership with SOS, really come up with a solution. You know, we're up against an April 1st deadline. I want to echo what Councilwoman Lowe said and echoing what Judith Walsh said. This is really, I think the city really does step up, needs to step up in a bigger way and help facilitate a better situation. Because in my view, I think everyone would agree, this is an incompatible use, and it's not just for the Field of Dreams, but I know that from what I understand, you know, we had a lot of fires in the hills last summer, and I've been told that people living in the hills would just come down and use the services and take showers there and just go back up into the hills. And so I just don't think this is the right location for many reasons. And so I think we really need to come together and figure something out. And so when it comes to 8th Street, I don't think that's the best solution, but, you know, obviously the Field of Dreams isn't either. Everyone, you know, we've received obviously many emails about this, and everyone says this is a great location because it's at the police station, but we are also talking about, we have private security there. So obviously the police station is not staffed overnight. If this really was a true, you know, a fully staffed police station parking lot overnight, I don't think we would need to pay for private security. And so at that point, in my view, just because it's near the police station, which is staffed during the day, I don't think that's necessarily a factor to say that that's where it should be. You know, ultimately, I appreciated some of the options that were in the packet, including the one obviously discussed near the Grange. You know, but some of those properties are, you know, $3.5 million. And I think that we need to get together with SOS and staff and really come up with some realistic solutions that can, you know, in the short term. And I know it's difficult, and I know it's not necessarily easy, but I do think it's a priority because, as callers have said, and we've received many emails, you know, the youth sports are going to come back in the next 2 weeks. And, you know, once again, Groundhog Day, we're here again, knowing that we need to find a better location for it. And we don't have one. And I just don't think that's acceptable. And I don't think it's worthy of a town like ours. I think we can all come together. We're all, you know, have good intentions here and are, you know, operating in good faith here. And I just, you know, and so I still have questions about it. But at this point, while it's not on the agenda, I do appreciate the update. But, you know, we still are looking at an April 1st deadline here. And so that's basically 2 months to figure out a better location. And so hopefully by our next meeting, we will have even more information related to that.
Councilmember Agrimonti.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barnett. You know, as I said, I agree with you, and I'm sure everybody agrees at this point. You know, I and the mayor, along with the mayor and Susan Gorin, I think it's the 18th. Is that right, Mr. Mayor? We're going to be meeting to discuss the South County plan. And
yes, 18th.
And COTS had said they would partner with us. They're a much bigger organization. So who knows how that would work. But I still think the South County plan is very important because there are a lot of people, a lot of organizations that can come under the umbrella. And with more people, maybe we'll have better answers. So I agree with you, Vice Mayor Barnett, because I think it's just not, it's not the best place, but everybody believes that. So we need to make a better effort to look for something. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we actually, maybe we should go knocking on doors and campaign like in the old days. Sell your house, sell your lot. But I think it's important. Thank you. Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I totally agree. We should have the and expand our vision for the homeless, especially for our regional cooperation and partnership is very important. Good thing is the SOS and also Council Member Agrimonti, we do have the relationship, especially SOS, have the long-term relationship with the COUTS. Yeah, and that is Commission on the Shelter. That is the nonprofit organization. This is a much bigger than SOS. The annual revenue, that is $6 million. And, yeah, Councilmember Agrimonti and I, we visited there last year and talked with the managers. Yeah, so they are very positive. And also Agrimonti recently talked with the executive director and Mr. Hernandez. Yeah, so we will have the meeting with them. And the issue is that for me, only the facilities, the locations for Haven visitor locations, how we can, work together, find more resources. That is more important. Gather more common grounds. But that is no anger. Just we have so that's the reason I really appreciate it. Ms. Landers. Just mentioned it. Yeah, we work together.
Someone out there has the answer for us.
Yes, we keep everything is open, possible. Yeah. Mr. Stoller, yeah, please.
Unmute.
Oh. Hi.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember
Yes.
Felder has his hand up.
I'm sorry. Mine, the monitor. Okay, go ahead.
I forgot to take it down.
No, that's fine. Yeah, maybe you have the more comments.
And I support you, Sandra. I think Supervisor Gordon is sort of tired of my face, but I still support you.
And I'm wondering why the chief of police has joined us. Maybe he has something to say.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Yes.
There was a question asked about if there was an increase in calls for service. Since I last reported was October 21st. And since then, there's been a total of 8 more calls for service that were called into our police department at the Fields of Dreams. 2 of them were self-initiated by police officers doing their patrols. And the other 6 were citizens calling. 3 of them were suspicious people or a welfare check on a person. And the other was a fight, and which occurred. I don't have any more information, but it was a fight between 2 people, and then there was a domestic disturbance call on top of that. So from January 1st of 2021 to today, there's been a total of 41 calls for service at the Fields of Dreams. I'm glad to see that the city council finally, I think I heard agreement that it is not a compatible place and we need to move it somewhere else. But in the meantime, I think that Kathy and I will try to do our best to try to keep it under control and try to provide extra patrol for the youth games that are coming up in the weekend. So I'll make sure that if the people in charge of the youth games, I didn't get the dates, but if they can send an email to the city of Sonoma or to myself, so that way we are aware of when those games will occur and when those tournaments will occur. I can provide extra security, provide officers to be vigilant and ensure, and we'll talk with Kathy to make sure that that if they're not receiving services, to please leave the parking lot. And that's something that I think that we can work together and figure it out. But I'm working, I'm trying to figure out a place. I talk to Kathy probably once a week at least, and trying to figure out a location where we can put SOS and a parking lot with a kitchen and the laundry services. And, Councilmember Barnett, I never thought about the building being lifted and replaced somewhere else. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. Why didn't I think about that? But but it's discussions like this that, brings ideas. And the only thing that I would have to say is about 8th Street East is the transportation, public transportation. So again, everything will fall on law enforcement if we have somebody who is in need of services, that if there's no public service, public transportation, then the police department turns into a taxi, and then it takes away from serving the citizens. So that's something that we have to really look and think about, to provide, public transportation where they're able to get on a bus if they don't have a car, to get on a bus and then go and get the food services or the laundry services that they need within walking distance. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate you, and good night. Thank you.
Thank you, the Chief. Mr. Stoller, I would like to, because today isn't purely an open talk, purely an open talk. Vice Mayor Council Barnett mentioned about the 8th Street to the east. Is possible for you and prepare a simple and feasibility report if we put homeless services in that location, or on the inside, or on the next the outside, if any possibility, if any, because my purpose is I want to protect our regular operation service for the road and the water. They are running day to day without any negative impact because of possible that is a location, because we already mentioned.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can contact the Public Works Director with the assistance of the city manager, and we can certainly look into the cost of relocation and obviously site planning as well.
That's good. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, any more comments and questions?
I think Garrett wanted to speak.
Thanks. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could make some comments. Thank you, Councilmember Agrimonti. Yes, I think from the council's direction, it sounds like you want to explore the feasibility at the courtyard. We didn't really explore it from the perspective of moving the Haven building there. We just explored it just from there's room, we would probably move the fence. But yes, if that's what the council wants us to do, we could explore the feasibility of that in terms of what it would take, because you need sewer, water, and just some other things. So we can come up with some drafting to look at that. The other thing that was mentioned was regarding the vet building. I think from a staff perspective, we didn't really want to push on the county until we knew from the council that you really want us to explore the vet building, so we can go ahead and do that for rationale in the process of what that would take to try to use the parking lot or a portion of the parking lot, obviously, for the vet building. The other thing mentioned is we had previously asked the Field of Dreams for ideas and thoughts and help. We'll go back to them and ask for their assistance and ideas regarding possibilities of alternate sites and their support. And the other note I had was to help SOS find other sites. My understanding is SOS has a real estate agent that's on the board. They're usually the best suited, but I think maybe we could ask if that board member is willing to work with us. We could talk with our planning director about alternate location, at least within the city, maybe even in the county areas, about something to explore. If the thought pattern is you need something temporary on a vacant lot, and you can move something there and you could theoretically do sewer and water, then maybe that opens up some other realms of possibilities. The only caveat is I don't know how much information we could have available on the 16th, but we'll try to have as much as we can based on the council discussion this evening.
Thank you so much. So I think that today's we thoroughly covered almost everything. And of course, we still have a lot of the questions. We have a lot of problems need us to solve. But I think that is a good start. Yeah, we discussed more and we have the more on the common grounds and understanding each other. That is a very good one. So I'm so sorry, Mr. Stoller, and the time, timing is, it's kind of pushing, so sorry about that. If you can do, before the 16, give us the, general, from the different perspective, from the safety issue and the day-to-day running, the city service. That is the two most important. Another is any potentially financial result and then the consequence, any costs or these kind of things, or any items you think is important. You cannot think it right now.
And Mr. Mayor, I can't speak for the city manager, but it may well be that we might have to do it as an oral report, primarily because from today's meeting until, we basically have a week to get a staff reporter ready for you. So if we can have that option, that'd be great. And we can certainly let Garrett make that determination for us all.
Okay, I appreciate it. So I think everything is completely, covered. I think that, we can move to another agenda. So, Mr. Latoya, do you think we needed to do made a decision, or I don't think we need to make any decision tonight, right?
No, you received the report and provided direction. So I think we're fine, Mr. Mayor, to move on.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And also, I want to say how the communities pay a lot of attention, send us the numerous and the emails. We receive it. We couldn't apply right now, but today we discussed a lot. Hopefully, you already heard and continue. Thank you for your continued support to us. We work together. Thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda number 6.3, discussion, consideration, and a possible action to adopt resolution adopting Rosenberg's rule of an order for official noticed the public meeting of the city council and selecting the rule of the how to count abstentions. Mr. Toy, could you please introduce a little bit?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. And the city attorney may want to also opine on the issue. But really, it's, pretty much back in July 6, 2011, the council adopted a resolution adopting the abbreviated version of Rosenberg's Rules of Order. Now, as you may recall, an issue came to light on your special meeting on January 12th related to action taken of how you count abstentions, how to count abstentions. Do the abstentions count as a vote or they don't count as a vote? The abbreviated version of the Rosenberg rules actually didn't have anything governing that process. However, the full version of Rosenberg's rules, as revised in 2011, actually had a rule governing the abbreviated version. So the staff report, what we did was we included the examples contained actually in the Rosenbergs that rule that are actually recommended by the League of California Cities. But to simplify that whole discussion, what it comes down to, this resolution before you would actually adopt Rosenberg's rules circa, I think the current version is 2011, as revised, as amended from time to time. That's what the resolution would do. But the one thing council needs to make a determination on is basically, how do you want to count votes? And how do you count abstentions? Does abstention count as a vote or does it not count as a vote? So the two things that are really before you are really, do you decide, is it based on those present or those present and voting? And that's the part that always gets a little confusing, which is which, but really it comes down to, again, easiest way to think about it is if you want an abstention to count as a vote, then we will let you know what would need to be in the resolution. Or you could decide to keep it as it was under Rosenberg, which is abstentions do not count as a vote for voting purposes. But obviously council members present count for quorum purposes. So I was just trying to keep that simplified. I don't know if the city attorney wants to add anything to what I just said.
Hi, Mr. Walker, are you there?
I'm having a little bit of internet problems tonight, so I.
It's fine. We can hear.
So good. I do apologize for that. I'm not being hiding anything. I've been here the whole time. Yes. So what the city manager says is correct. Before you tonight is the adoption of the complete set of the Rosenberg's Rules of Order as of 2011. Plus, the council needs to decide whether you want to count abstentions or not. The resolution adopts the 2011 version that's attached. It does not include language that says that those rules would then also be automatically amended when they might get amended. And the resolution is crafted that way so that we don't have to constantly be checking to see whether this set that we're adopting tonight, if you do adopt it, has been amended in a small part or a large part. We can do that periodically. You'll notice that the 2011 version of Rosenberg's Rules of Order, to my knowledge, have not been changed materially since 2011. So they don't undergo significant revisions on a regular basis. And it's very helpful for the council and staff and our office to be able to go to each council meeting with that set in our binder, so we can each refer to it and know it's the set that the council has approved. So I'm recommending you adopt the resolution as crafted and not include language that you're adopting the attached document as it might be amended from time to time. In my view, that does not work well, practically speaking. In terms of choosing what you want to do with abstentions, the staff report lays out the hypotheticals that I think explain it very clearly. These are, as the city manager indicated, are borrowed from Rosenberg's Rules of Order itself. So if you have any questions, certainly the city manager and I would respond to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I appreciate it. My question is, because we did have the accident, the January the 12th, because at that time, and we thought 4 over the 5 votes would be, the pass, because we just only got the 3 votes. And then later on, you said, motion failed. But at that time, right now, we just go back. You say that, do you fully understand, the abbreviation version and completed version at that time? Or because basically if according to an abbreviation version, that is truly no any chance we need to discuss and no any reconsideration 2 days later. Can you review that?
I'm not sure I understand your question. It's clear that when the council adopted the rules in 2011, that it adopted an abbreviated version, and it expressly declined to adopt the complete set. So the question arose whether or not it's reasonable or appropriate to use a set of rules the council expressly did not adopt to interpret the abbreviated version that it did. And I opine that it's probably reasonable to do that. It's not a right or wrong issue. It's a reasonableness question, because as I mentioned before, in 2011, the council did not adopt the complete rules, and it did that knowing it was not adopting the complete set. I was there. I had discussions with the city manager about adopting the abbreviated set. And interestingly enough, if you take a look at the staff report back in 2011, you can see the copy of the magazine article that was adopted by the city council. And there are crossouts on the first page or two showing pieces of that magazine article that were not even incorporated and included in the document the council adopted in 2011. So the question really is, do you use the complete set that was not adopted by the council and intentionally not adopted by the council to construe the document it did? And I opined that probably it was not unreasonable to do that. And that's why my opinion changed.
Okay.
So that passed, water on the bridge, that's happened, that's concluded. So now tonight, in order to clarify the council's position on these issues, the staff is coming back to you. So we don't have this issue going forward. We're trying to resolve it by the action tonight. Let's get clarity. Let's get a decision from the council so that on a going forward basis, we know how to count abstentions, among other things, because the complete set of Rosenberg rules address other issues that the abbreviated set never did. So I think it's a good thing for the council to adopt the complete set. And it's a good thing for the council to decide how it wants to count abstentions. So we're clear about that going forward.
I still remember at that time, and when other council member asking the questions, and you said, "Oh, Raina, at this point, I'm not sure. I need time to study." Do you still remember what topic you study, or this, the Rosenberg and the two different versions, or something else? Yeah, because I really don't want to see this same thing that would happen in the future.
Well, I would agree with that. I don't want to see the same thing happen in the future either. And that will not happen if the council adopts these rules tonight.
Okay. So yeah, my council maybe already understand, if you have the different interpretation because you didn't know that, and then later on you find out, that is fine, totally is fine. But if that night you clearly understand difference between an abbreviation version and a completed version, so that according to my idea, that night should be very straightforward. Okay, that is a failed. The motion didn't go through, and then no any reconciliation. But anyway, Council Member Lowe, please.
My understanding is if we adopt the full rules, then the abstentions are as they were interpreted finally, which is they count for the people, everyone there counts for the purpose of a quorum and establishment of quorum. An abstention does not count, yes or no. That's the way we finalized it. That's what we should do going forward. It's very clear. It is the intent of abstentions not to side one way or the other. And I believe we don't have to have a special rule for that. I believe that that is embedded in the Rosenberg's complete rules. And if I'm wrong, then we'll have that special rule. But I'd like to not have special rules and just adopt the complete set of Rosenberg and have the interpretation be correct that abstentions do not count, yes or no, but the person there does count for the purpose of a quorum.
Council Member Lowe, it's a little different than that, but I understand what you're saying. Rosenberg's rules of order actually say that if the council does not make a specific decision on that issue, does not set a policy on that issue, the default rule is as you've described.
Correct. So let's not set a special rule. Let's have the default rule apply, because my feeling is when you establish extra things that they get lost, there's changes over different council members, different staff members, and that little piece falls through the falls by the wayside. And so I think it's clearer to adopt them in a complete set with the understanding that that is the default opinion. And I've looked it up numerous times, and in states and different, configurations of councils and boards and whatever, and they all clearly understand that. So to me, that is the clearest and simplest way to handle this. One motion to adopt the full set of rules with the understanding that the default opinion is as was stated. That's where I'd like to go with this.
Councilmember Felder, please.
Yeah, I agree with Councilwoman Lowe. I think that the Rosenberg's rules, the complete set, is very, very clear on its default position. And I don't see any reason to have to establish a special rule. So I would certainly favor just adopting Rosenberg rules in the complete set without any other special rules.
Councilmember Agrimonti.
Well, I certainly agree. I think it makes sense, and I appreciate Councilmember Lowe sharing details from what she understands. Thank you.
Yeah, I concur with everything that has been said.
If there no anything, let me open to the public.
I have another question.
Okay,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Walter, you also were suggesting, I believe, that we should not adopt this for as amended in the future, but just stick with a specific set of rules. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm recommending that, and I'm recommending you adopt the rules that are attached to the packet.
Right, and I agree with that as well. And that this becomes a very clear set of rules that we're working by. Then
I agree.
Another question is this kind of a practice. If our the city council adopt it, how about other the city commission or committees?
That is up to the council. If the council wishes staff to explore the appropriateness of having all the other commission and committees governed by these rules, we certainly can do that and bring back a resolution to that effect.
Thank you. Councilmember Felder.
Am I okay? It was my understanding, Mr. Walter, that position has already been taken by the council for other commissions and committees that serve at the will of the council.
I don't know that to be true, Council.
Well, I seem to recall that from my 12 years on the planning commission, that was the direction that we were told to proceed with.
To follow Rosenberg's rules?
Yes.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if there's a specific policy or directive that's in writing that indicates that.
Well, to be safe, then I guess I would like to add that to the motion.
Meaning that you would ask the staff to develop the document to do that.
Right, to make it apply to all commissions and committees.
Oh, okay. We could modify the resolution to do that for sure.
That just makes it clear.
Clear.
Thank you. So, all right. Let me now open to the public.
No one appears to be raising their hand, Mayor Dean. We can give them just another few seconds here.
Sure.
It doesn't appear that anyone's wants to comment.
All right. Let me close the public comments. So, yeah, we discussed more, and or maybe we can prepare the motion.
I would like to make a motion.
Yeah. All right. Second.
Can I? Sorry.
Oh, all right. Mr. Toy.
Can I ask a question of the city attorney? I'm wondering, Jeff, For this resolution, if we wanted to apply it all, to make it clear, it applies to all city commissions, committees, and boards. Can we just add that into this resolution in the title where it says public meetings of the city council and all city commissions and committees and boards?
We could do that, and we should also have some text added to the resolution itself.
So we would take out the one whereas where it says the whereas council does not wish its rules or orders to be established by default, therefore wishes to count votes present, those present voting. If we took that whereas out, and then we just said, whereas it applies, rules applies to all cities, commissions, committees, and boards, would that work?
It might I suggest that we not try to wordsmith the thing tonight, and we know what the direction is of the council once the motion is made, and we can massage the document and have the mayor look at it, and it seems acceptable, sign it, and have it the official documentation.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So the direction to make it apply, and then we, okay.
I get the language later.
Okay.
So does that mean I can make a motion to adopt Rosenberg's rules of order as included in the packet? And we will vote on a resolution to accomplish that with the additional language?
That would be fine. And you're also sticking with the default rule under Rosenberg,
Yes.
correct?
Default, yes.
That's correct, with the default.
That's right.
Okay.
So I make that motion.
I second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barnett,
Should I abstain? I'm just kidding. Aye.
Councilmember Felder,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Agrimonti,
Aye.
Mayor Ding.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right, let's move on. Agenda number 7, council members' report and the comments.
I'm so excited. Okay, I have a.
Yes, yeah, Councilmember Agrimonti.
No, Councilmember Felder put his hand up first.
I have a very quick report.
Sure.
We were supposed to have a Sonoma Valley Citizens Advisory Commission meeting last week, I believe it was. And it turned out that they didn't properly notice the Zoom link for the public. So the meeting was called to order and then canceled immediately. So we are now meeting next week with a special meeting to accomplish that agenda.
Is that my meeting?
No.
No, thank God. Okay, thank you. So I have a great report. My report is from Zero Waste, and I can't reveal what might be happening here in Sonoma, but they are opening very shortly a church for CRV recycling. A church has agreed to do this, and you never know about Sonoma. You never know. So I'm very excited about it. That's it for me. That's how busy I am.
Great. Councilmember Lowe.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Ding. I'd like to say that Lily Gelb, who came forward asking about the Youth Council, has put together a preliminary meeting, and she's gotten some great support from schools and community and so forth. And I'm going to attend that meeting and hope to help her cobble this together. And then I just finally like to say that this is Black History Month, and that we should celebrate it and embrace this month. And would like to just say that in the future, I'd love to have an ability, this will be in the next thing, to pass resolutions where we can honor special members of our community or special months of great significance, whether it be Black History Month, whether it be Pride Month, whatever, that I'd like to be able to do that. And but I'd like to at least use my report to give a shout out and honor Black History Month.
That's great. Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. Vice Mayor Barnett, please. Do you have anything to report?
I do not.
Okay. I do not either. So let's move on to the next agenda. Agenda number 8, city manager comments and announcements.
Mr. Mayor, the city clerk would like to make an announcement.
All right.
Yes, so last week, the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission did meet, and they selected the 2022 Treasure Artist. And the press release went out this evening. There was a hold on releasing the name outside of the meeting and who attended the public. It was open to the public, just because they were waiting to notify the individual. That individual is Pat Meyer Johnson. And the newspaper will be doing a story on her on Friday, and we will be scheduling that reception at a date to be determined as COVID allows for that. So if you see her, congratulations to her. She was, I think she had 34 nominations and well-deserved. So just wanted to make that announcement.
Thank you. Exciting news.
So, Mr. Mayor, I do have one last, 8.1. I'll wait for city manager.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. We still have. Yeah. Okay. And Mr. Toya, do you have anything else to add?
Nothing else, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Agenda number 9, city attorney comments.
No, 8.1.
Oh, a point 1, yes. 8.1, the future agenda item.
I'm looking for support from another person so we can put on the agenda the request by Patricia Cullinan regarding the Historical Society so they can make a presentation to the City Council.
I would support that.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Do we need to make a motion or to? No? Okay. All right. That's wonderful. Also, I support.
Yeah. I have an agenda item, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'd like to relook at what we do regarding resolutions.
Okay.
I was contacted today that next month is Red Cross month, and every single city in Sonoma and Napa counties is going to adopt this resolution, and we don't have the ability to do so according to the organizer. And I think that considering all the good work that the Red Cross has done for us in our time of need, that maybe we need to relook at how we do that, because I would hate to be the only city that didn't, be able to honor Red Cross or these funds. So anyway, whatever that mechanism is, I'd like to take a look at that.
Support.
That's great.
I guess I talked to Rebecca. I would think we could put that on. I don't know why there's a rule that we couldn't.
I talked to the organizer, if I may, I talked to the organizer. I talked to her today, and I explained to her that in 2018, the council stopped bringing proclamations to the full council, and that what the process is that we prepare them. If there's something really outside of the realm, then we haven't had any that aren't normal ones that we've done in the past, and the proclamations prepared for the mayor. And there's usually something in the a news update, that kind of thing, maybe social media. There's nothing in our rules and regs that say that the council cannot start bringing back proclamations to the council. It was just something, I believe it was discussed at the retreat, if I remember correctly. And at that point, it wasn't something that necessarily was going to be a change. So, and I may be remembering that incorrectly. So obviously, if I am, forgive me, but that's my remembrance. But I did talk with her today, and I was planning on preparing that.
Okay, that's good.
So is the request then to put a resolution on for next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I will also support that request.
Right.
That's great. All right.
Can I ask a question on that?
Oh.
We're talking proclamations, not resolutions.
Proclamation.
They're very different.
Yeah, they're honoring a month or
proclamation, not
proclamation.
It's a very perfect. Thank you. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for your clarification, Ms. Barr. All right, let's go to
Mr. Barnett. I'm
yes,
his rep.
Barnett. Yeah, what's yours?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to consider as a future agenda item, if another council person would support. When we had our housing element joint meeting with the Planning Commission last week, something that jumped out at me and many people was that Sonoma has the highest number of, or is a very high percentage of vacant homes as a result of, obviously vacation rentals or second homes, et cetera. And as a result from that meeting, Caitlin Cornwall and other members of the Sonoma Valley Collaborative reached out to me, and I think perhaps all of us, to investigate a vacancy tax. Other cities throughout California have this. I don't know if it's legal. I don't know if it's possible, but I think it would have to probably go on the ballot at some point, which would be a long process. And so I just want to at least start that process to talk about it.
I support that.
Me too.
All right, well, there it
Me
is.
three.
Okay.
That's
There's
great.
a house at the end of my street. They don't use it for anything. And it's just ridiculous that, there's so many people looking for
Yeah,
homes.
Exactly.
maybe we can discuss how to assess additional taxes, community tax.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Because you are not a participant, we want you to see the neighbors, our community.
Exactly. We're trying, yes.
Yeah. So the agenda number 9, city attorney comments, Mr. Water.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 comments. One is a short one, and the other one is a little bit longer. The first one is just a reminder that before the council takes action or indicates a decision or comments on the merits of a matter, you should have the public give you their thoughts. And so before public comment portion of your items on the agenda should primarily be an opportunity for the council to ask questions and get clarification and that sort of thing.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Can I comment on that, Mr. Walter?
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
That's included in a section of Rosenberg's rules that we just adopted. It talks about the order of discussing an agenda item, and it has that very thing about questions followed by public comment.
Right.
Okay, great.
And if I might add to Mr. Felder's comments and say that it's one thing to adopt a set of rules. It's another thing to understand them, use them, be trained, and so forth. So I would suggest that everybody, read them and make sure that they understand them. And if we need some training on them, then we can do that. But I think it's very important that everyone understands it, and training is important.
That's great. Yeah, very good suggestions.
Thank you. My second point, yes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council probably remembers, at least some of you do, that in 2019, the council adopted a resolution finding that a use permit granted to the cheese factory in 2004 had vested, and that the rights that had been granted in 2004 were still effective. The council adopted a fairly lengthy resolution, and the council and the city were sued by a group calling itself Protect Our Plaza, claiming that in that resolution, the council granted more than what the Planning Commission granted in 2004, and thus the additional entitlements were subject to an environmental quality analysis. The court rendered its ruling yesterday, and I sent the council the complete text of that rule this afternoon. It's 26 pages of legal analysis and conclusions by the court, and the court disagreed with Protect Our Plaza and agreed with the city council and denied the petition that was filed by Protect Our Plaza. I'd like to read just a little bit of the court's decision because I thought it was well-reasoned and very thorough in its analysis. It said, at the most, the 2019 resolution merely makes more precisely clear what was meant in the 2004 permit. It is apparent that it provides nothing more or new or different from what was clearly approved in 2004 and simply delineates the approval more clearly. If anything, the resolution of 2019 is more limiting because it is more precise and detailed, but even in these regards, the precision and detail are inherent in the original 2004 permit. So we have been successful in this litigation. If any of the council members have questions about the detail of the opinion, because it is quite detailed, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you for your introducing the background. That is the older case. I believe Councilmember Agrimonti and Vice Mayor Barnett knows more about the background. Any questions to Mr. Water? No. All right. If nobody wants to continue on along the meeting, I would like to go to agenda number 10, adjournment. Anybody making a motion?
Move.
Move. I second. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Motion to adjourn requires no discussion.
Yeah.
Please consult your rules.
All right. Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Yes. Thank you so much. Good night. Bye.